done. Turn PlayStation's kingdom into a graveyard of fun. You bet all your chips on the long service spree, but the fans only asked for Bloodborne on PC. You whisper to Aloy, you'll lead us to gold, but all that we got was the same game result. Like your service dreams, oh they burned in the night, like a Discord server in a fanboy fight. Spin, spin, Herman, dance through the fire. You sold us the dream, now you're stuck in the mire. Light service graveyards, abandoned and cold, like a PS portal nobody holds. Of gas stations climbing so high, but no one can see through the cash grab disguise. Fair games, oh fair, what a terrible name. Stealing from the rich, Sony's playing that game. You said lip service is future, just give me some time. But now you're demoted, oh what a decline. Naughty Dog stranded, the last of us cursed. The only thing alive is your PR rehearsed. Spin, spin, Herman, your fate is unkind. Ryan has left you, now what's Sony blind? Your horizon obsession, your service collapse. Your legacy's buried in overpriced scraps. A decade you reigned, but the players withdrew. Aloy can't save you, she's also confused. The fans wanted Kratos, they wanted a thrill, but you chased dollar signs and swallowed the pill. Spin, spin, Herman, your tango is done. They stripped you of power, they fired the gun. The studios are tired, the players all fled. Your legacy lives, but only in red. Spin, spin, Herman, your tango is done. They stripped you of power, they fired the gun. The studios are tired, the players all fled. The legacy lives, but only in red.
Drove my rusty pickup to the local game store door. Starfield gleamed upon the shelf, couldn't wait no more. Todd Howard spun his stories of galaxies afar, but when I fired up that game, I didn't get too far. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your little lies. I fell for all your stories, like I always do. Starfield left me feeling like just another fool. They boasted endless planets, each one unique and new. But after planet number 3, I'd felt deja vu. The critics didn't love it, gave it mediocre scores. Just another space misfire, echoed across the board. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your little lies. I fell for all your stories, like I always do. Starfield left me wishing for a game that's true. Epic battles, but the AI wouldn't fight. Characters were wooden and the dialogue was trite. Todd promised me the cosmos, but left me in the dust. Now I'm trading in this game, it's betrayed my trust. Oh, Todd, you weaved a fable of worlds beyond compare, but all I got were glitches and load screens everywhere. Still, somehow I'm considering when the next game's nigh, 'cause hope's a stubborn thing, and I'll give it one more try. Oh, Todd, you sold me stardust, but gave me empty skies. Promised me the universe with all your sweet little lies. I fell for all your deceptions, like I always do. Todd left me sat here, wishing the things he said were true.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Dude, it's been quite the morning. I wish I could tell you more about why the morning has been a headache, I guess, but I can't. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. It's something funny you will eventually hear about. Not too far in the future. But anyway, I'll stop teasing you, but I'll tell the story soon enough. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, I'm glad to have you guys here. We've got a few things to touch on. I don't think we're going to have like a crazy long stream today. But should be good. Should be rocking and rolling. There's a few, I mean, there's some little videos I just want to watch with you. Like some obvious ones, like this one from Nick Tech. We all know where this is going. But, I mean, we all want to see it. Oh man, yeah, that's gonna be good. Monster Hunter. In other news, Monster Hunter has a benchmark out. If you didn't know that, they put out a benchmark app, like executable thing, and so you can download it through Steam and see what the game is expected to run like on your hardware, which is kind of cool. So if you are interested, you can do that. KCD2 is rocking and rolling on Steam charts and on the player lists and stuff. Lots of people are in there eating it up, which is always good to see. Another news story we're going to touch on that will surprise absolutely no one at all. It seems like EA leadership fundamentally misunderstands why Dragon Age Veilguard did poorly. Can't say I'm too shocked. EA CEO says Dragon Age Veilguard failed to resonate with a broad audience. Gamers increasingly want shared world features. In other words, this would have been successful if only it were a live service game. You can't make this up, dude. Like, you can't make this up. It's amazing. It's honestly impressive to just be like so consistently wrong. But this is like the thing I've been wondering, and I talked about this in the Hogwarts Legacy mod update video. They like these executives sound like absolute morons. And in some cases they definitely are. But there have been times where the CEOs and executives will say something that very clearly, like, the investors want to hear, but then their behaviors are different. And I have to wonder, like, what they're doing here. Because EA, yeah, they launched Veilguard, and then they say it's because it didn't have shared world features or whatever. But their next big game that they're publishing is Split Fiction from Hazelight. And the last game they put out and published won Game of the Year. So they say all this stuff, like pushing the live service stuff, but they could have shut down BioWare. They could have announced that Mass Effect 5 is going to be multiplayer live service or whatever, and maybe they will eventually announce that. But as of right now, they haven't. So it makes me wonder, like, are they just saying this to make investors who are the real idiots happy? Or do they actually mean it? Because Warner Brothers has been saying the same thing for like a year and a half, 2 years, that we want to transform all of our franchises into mobile and live service games. But then their biggest game is Hogwarts Legacy, which is not that. And so it makes you wonder what is being said for investors and what do they personally, like, honestly believe in? What are they actually choosing to make choices based off of? I don't know. Time will tell. I mean, actions speak louder than words with all that. EA's answers to everything is make it live service. I mean, yeah. And I mean, in some cases it's worked for them. Yeah, they've had some massive games, certainly, but in other cases it's certainly frustrating because it's like they're just trying to make the worst decisions possible. Loading. Come on. Did this. I guess it didn't sync. I had another quick notes. Oh yeah, I went in under quick notes. Let me show you here.
HP is now a member.
Booyah. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, because this is the other thing. The parent company of the publisher that is releasing KCD2 saw like a 35% stock drop. Oh God! Is Kingdom Come flopping? No. I've seen some like grifter types try to latch onto this saying, oh, actually that shows that KCD2 is flopping. Go woke, go broke kind of thing. Which reveals that they don't know how numbers work. Or how stocks work when you unlatch from another gigantic corporation. We'll talk about it because there's some stupid people that make themselves look stupid, and it's very funny. It's very, very funny, but it's also it also betrays the fact that those same people can't read. So that's a problem. We'll get to that though. Mitch, thank you for that membership. Thank you, Brandon, for 27 months. GameStop effed me so bad they decided to wait to the day of release to prepare shipment of the collector's edition. Anyone else get that or just me? Ooh, I haven't heard that. They delivered mine like days early. Like 3-4 days early. I've seen a lot of people that got it early. I don't know. God forbid gay romance is an option in RPG because it's not like we had anything like that in Mass Effect and people didn't care. It's kind of the funny thing is it's like nobody's making you press those buttons to like see all the gay sex scenes. So if you keep finding them and watching them and then posting videos of them and sharing them with your friends, at some point, it seems like you have a fixation. You know? At some point, it's starting to look a little... You care about this a lot, sir. Like, a lot. Maybe too much. Maybe go outside, touch some grass, you know? It's always very funny because it's like, no, somebody asked me in the review comment section, they're like, did you see this? I was like, no, like I didn't see it in my playthrough. I guess I didn't press those buttons. Shocker, right? It's like, I'm going to cancel this game and I'm going to rage about it because I watched this gay sex scene 5 times in a row, and then I reloaded and I watched it through a few more times, then I recorded it and I watched it with my friends on my TV, and we all sat in this big circle where we all put our hand over to the right, and you know what? I'm upset about it. How could they do this to me? It's like, sir, I'm starting to think this might be more of a you thing, okay? Perhaps to you, but like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, yeah, it's the age-old Doom meme of you control the buttons you press. If you want to do that, cool. RPGs for years and years and years have had all sorts of different romance options. Honestly, it's typically, dirty little secret, it's typically because it's just cheaper to make this character romanceable, and whether you chose to play as a girl, boy, space dragon, whatever, it's easier to just have all of them romanceable so you can say you have more romance options. And everybody goes through the same dialogue trees, the same cutscenes and everything. It just puts your character in it. It's just frankly easier and cheaper. Like, it's not that crazy. Like, But anyway, why don't I see much hype for Crimson Desert? I think there is hype. I mean, I've done videos on it that have popped off and done very, very well. I think people are interested. It's just from a new-ish studio. Not like if you haven't played Black Desert Online, you don't know anything about that studio. It can look too good to be true. And a lot of people have been burnt by those types of games that look really good in trailers. And then you get them and they're just kind of like, wah, wah. So I think there's a lot of intrigue, but it's going to take them actually seeing it. And like a demo would do that game wonders, I think. Joy Query, thank you for 5 community subs gifted on Twitch. That's very generous. Thank you, my friend. That's wonderful. Thank you. Welcome, everybody who just got gifted a sub over there. That's wonderful. Blake, thank you for the 2. You going to try out Ninja Gaiden 4 when it drops? Possibly. We shall see. I've got, I mean, no shocker to anybody. We have a pretty full release calendar this year. And so I'm I struggle to make any firm commitments on what we are or are not going to be able to play. Because even the stuff that I thought was pretty locked in has gotten bounced around. Like I told you guys, I'm reviewing Avowed right now. I didn't think I was going to be able to play Avowed at all. Because originally, like right now, I'd be crunching to review AC Shadows. But then that got booted back. So that was cool. Originally, like this was in the same period where I'd be crunching to review KCD2. But that got moved forward, amazingly enough. So you just can't tell. 2025 is going to be one of those years where you just can't really predict much of anything. I've even heard rumblings that there's at least like 3 or 4 other big AAA games that should be out by the end of the year. Like stuff that has not been announced yet. So, I mean, it's been like announced / shown, but not like we know it's coming, but it's not been like release date, big gameplay demos, that type of thing. So we'll see. I'm sure like 1, maybe 2 of them get booted into 26 if GTA 6 actually does end up coming this year. But I mean, that's a big question mark. At this point, man, I really don't know. GTA 6. So GTA 6, it's been what, 14 months? So I guess we can kind of touch on this real quick. News segment. So the original Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer was 8 years ago. Jesus, dude, we're so old. October 20th, 2016. Dude, they really revealed it like 2 years ahead of time. That's crazy. That's crazy. Wasn't it 2016 that they also revealed The Last of Us Part 2 for the first time with that like musical trailer where she's playing the guitar? I think that was 2016 as well. Like 4 years before The Last of Us Part 2 would launch. 2016 was a crazy year for reveals, man. And wasn't 2016 also the reveal of God of War, the reboot? I think so. Man, 2016 E3 was wild. There's probably never been a year like it before or, of course, since. But anyway, so we've got that trailer, Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer, first trailer on October 20th, 2016. And this, of course, got delayed a handful of times. You can see they did like follow-up trailers. This one, the second trailer was September 28th, 2017. Like a year later, they announced it was coming October 26th of 2018. And all that. I remember people saying that the trailers looked fake because they looked too good. People said there's no way the game actually looks like this. And nowadays, like I look back on it and it looks amazing. I mean, obviously it still looks great, but it doesn't look as photorealistic as I remember it looking, you know? Still looks very good. But isn't that just amazing? How you go back, like I remember watching a video of the reveal of Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, and they're at E3 filming interviews with gamers who are seeing the trailers for the first time. And they're like, it looks so photorealistic. I've never seen a game like this. It's getting hard to distinguish between real life and what is a video game anymore. which is really freaking funny because this is the trailer they were talking about. You know, like back in 2006, they're looking at this like, I can't tell the difference anymore between real life and video games. But times change. And then you see something even better and you're like, oh, wait, no, okay. And so it's just funny how things shift. But it's even funnier how at one time, Bethesda Game Studios was considered like a leader in tech in the games industry. Like they were considered to be one of the most graphically impressive studios. Like it's kind of crazy how times change. Anyway, but they did that. Like Red Dead got a trailer like once a year, basically. Then they started getting a little bit more intense as we got closer to launch. They, of course, did an official gameplay reveal trailer. You can see this a few months before launch. They did a full gameplay trailer reveal where they just showed what it'll actually look like when you play and how it actually works. But they waited till pretty late to do that. It took a little bit of time, and they waited until it was good. Because the one thing Rockstar did not want was like a massive downgrade that would piss people off. Similarly to like, do you remember the OG Grand Theft Auto 5 trailer? I remember seeing this and also thinking this looked photorealistic. It's crazy, dude. Xbox 360, man. How crazy is that? But man, times change. Times change. Can't wait. But this brings the question of GTA 6. Like, what the hell is happening with that? Because at this point, it has been 14 months or so. Is it? I think maybe tomorrow or in the next few days, it will be officially 14 months. No, as of yesterday, 14 months. Okay, because it was December 4th of 2023. So we've heard nothing for over a year, which I don't think anybody expected. I mean, there's always the funny memes of, you know, GTA fans being insane and like, well, I looked at this frame and I counted the letters and I applied numbers to each of the letters and I added them together and I divided them by ponytail. And when you divide 376 by ponytail, then you can triangulate the length of the ponytail to get a number of inches of 16 inches. And then 16 inches is the same size. You know, people go crazy. But I still think, like, in the most basic terms, it was reasonable to expect that we would see something in 2024. And the fact that we have not seen anything for over a year tells me, at least, that the possibility of a delay is on the table. I mean, Jason Schreier has already reported and talked about from his sources within Rockstar that they are feeling good about the 2025 window that they've set forward, but it very easily could slip into 2026. And this is because, like, when you're making a video game, especially a big, complex open world game, if one system, it can cascade into 15,000 other problems. I mean, even this, you see all the cars driving on the roads and stuff. If there's one bug that pops up because of something they changed in the last few months, and this one bug causes maybe NPC AI to demand a megabyte of extra RAM for each, and then you simulate the streets with 1,000 of these NPCs, all of a sudden, we're in trouble. All of a sudden, you've got major memory management issues whenever you're in the big cities. Your performance is tanking. Everything falls apart because of one little issue with one NPC taking a little bit too much RAM, and then the whole thing starts to spin. It makes you wonder how much dedicated RAM you need for a game like this. It's a lot. And already, like, there's been the reports of you know, former Rockstar devs who are very confident that this game is like, they're aiming for 30 frames. There's no way that they're pushing for 60 or anything, especially if they have to maintain parity across Xbox Series S and everything. Because the main issue with Rockstar games traditionally are having to do with CPU bottlenecks, not necessarily like GPU bottlenecks. And that's not something that, like, the PS5 Pro magically fixes. It doesn't give you the extra headroom. That's according to people way smarter than me, to be clear. So it's possible that they were also wrong or whatever, and we do end up with a performance mode, but I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that GTA 6 comes in running at 30 frames. Still will be graphically amazing. Still will be a great game, I'm sure. But any of these people who are like demanding 60 frames, otherwise they boycott, will probably find it a little disappointing, I think. But there's just so many things that can go wrong. And they are polishing and they are working in this. I mean, the other thing is Rockstar has a reputation of extreme quality and polish. That we're not talking about Ubisoft with little frictions, as Yves Guillemot, the CEO, said, where they fix it after launch. They don't want that. They want it to be the best thing you've ever played, so that you buy 15 copies of it, just like GTA 5, you know? And already the level of detail is insane just in this trailer. But again, you would think if they were really confident about 2025, they'd have a little bit more to show. The original rumors and speculation was that they were going to be targeting a early 2025 release, like in the next few months. That obviously has not happened or materialized. So at this point, I think everybody is expecting maybe October, November, something like that of 2025. But that means, I mean, we're running out of time for all of this. But but even that statement, they're running out of time to market it. That would have made sense 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you kind of needed the traditional marketing cycle. You had to have the press events. You had to do the thing at E3. You had to go up and do the big presentation. Yeah, like that's what you had to do. And then you had to ship out the copies of the games to all the hardware, sellers and Target and Walmart and GameStop. Now, like you don't really need to. Now, if they just shadow drop this game, it will still break the internet. So they really don't need to worry that much about the traditional marketing cycle and techniques. If they wanted to release no trailers, nothing until launch day, and then they just casually in November are like, GTA 6 out tomorrow, it would still light the internet on fire. If anything, that might end up getting the game more attention than if they did like this traditional marketing campaign, because everybody would lose their minds. Everybody would be calling out of work. And then everybody's like, why is this store closed today? It's not a holiday. Yeah, because everybody called out of work for GTA 6. What's GTA 6? Let me Google it. All of a sudden, like all of the planet is talking about the game, okay? Like they can do whatever they want, which I think is the broader point. They can do whatever they want. So all the rules kind of break down when it comes to GTA 6 because it's so massive. That being said, do I think that they break all the rules and they just do their own thing and don't market it? No, I mean, I think they market the crap out of this. I think you'll see posters everywhere, TV commercials, you'll see all of that. They did it with Red Dead 2. They've done it with all their other games. I don't think they stop now. But I do think it means that in the context of the video game industry specifically, they probably don't need to do the IGN first. They probably don't need to do like a big reveal type of thing at Summer Games Fest or whatever. They can kind of pick their own battles. Now, could they end up at Summer Game Fest? It's not impossible. Jeff Keighley has, I believe Mafia was revealed at Summer Game Fest, was it not? Or was that Gamescom? Or was it? No, it was the Game Awards. It was a Jeff Keighley thing. So he has a relationship with them. And so it's not impossible that he could get a trailer or something for this. But then that begs the question, why does Rockstar need, and why does Take-Two need to even go to a show? I don't think they do. They could just, like they did with this, shadow drop the trailer. Not really shadow drop. I mean, it kind of leaked ahead of time, but and then they released it. But they just dropped the trailer. It does 238 million views. Like, this is without being at a show. Typically, like with these types of games, you got the Doom Dark Ages trailer. You reveal that at your showcase, and then you also drop the trailer, and so you'd like double dip on viewership. With this, they don't need any of that. They can do whatever the hell they want. So all this to say, nobody has any freaking idea what's going on with GTA 6. It is strange we haven't heard anything in over a year. That to me makes it probably more likely than not that it does get delayed into 2026. I think the big, most telling thing is when we start to hear from earnings calls and stuff, any information about potential delays. I would not be surprised at all, though, if they end up delaying it to like February or March of 2026. You know, I think that would be very reasonable for them to do, give a little bit of extra time. And, you know, I think that would be perfectly reasonable. Plus, right now, as of right now, February of 26, there's like nothing I think officially scheduled. So I think that would make sense. What's the CPM of that single video? More than anything you could imagine. I'm sure. Every advertiser wants to be on the GTA 6 trailer. I'll tell you what. If it's supposed to release this year, no marketing, no trailer for it is concerning. It's more than likely will be delayed. Yeah, I mean, if they continue radio silent, which I don't think they even can. I mean, Take-Two's earnings call, interactive earnings call. When is it? February 6th. So here's the deal. With the earnings call on February 6th, they will be asked questions about GTA 6 launching this year from investors. If you guys are saying tomorrow, is it on the... Oh, because it's the 5th. I was thinking it was the 4th for some reason. I'm a mess, is what I'm saying. So with the earnings call tomorrow, like... I would guess if there's no trailer dropped before the earnings call, so like later today, out of nowhere, then I think the odds are pretty good that they delay it. They'll just lie to appease investors. The problem for them is if they delay it out of the fiscal year, investors will be very upset. Because it's basically supposed to carry the entire financial year. Make all their books look really good for the year, which is part of what drives a lot of stock movements. But it's such a massive game, and their silence on it is deafening. You know, it's been very, very quiet. MMORPGL, thank you for the gifted membership. Thank you, my friend. And Sofa Sith Lord, thank you for the 5 months. Ooh, baby. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. So, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. I think we'll find out a lot tomorrow, but more than likely what I would guess happens tomorrow is that there's the earnings call. They say something like, yeah, we've decided to focus on quality first and foremost, and we're going to have to take a little bit of extra time. GTA 6 is now expected out in, they'll probably not even be specific, probably spring of 2026. And then collectively, every publisher on the planet will sigh a breath of relief and move on. I know maybe I'm out of the loop here, but I'm shocked that I'm only just now realizing she has an ankle monitor. Sounds like a good way to keep the player restrained in a certain area during the tutorial bits. Oh, you can't leave this zone until you progress in the main story. And you know, it's like Breath of the Wild with the Great Plateau. Can't jump until you have the glider. But with this, in this case, it's an ankle monitor. She got a G-Shock, yo. Yeah, G-Shocks are great, dude. MMORPGL, 16 months. Ooh, baby. I think it would be funny if they delayed GTA 6 to see an ocean of other devs announce release dates for the next, or for the rest of 2025. Yeah, I mean, I do know that I know of at least like 2 big AAA games that are waiting to like lock in a release date until GTA 6 gets pinpointed. Nobody, if you got a big game, nobody wants to be close to it. The only games that are potentially immune are like remakes, because those I think are appealing to a different group. Nintendo, I don't think gives a crap. I think if Nintendo has the Switch 2 out in May, let's say, and then or maybe June, and then they have like a new Mario game that comes out 3 days before or after GTA 6, I don't think Nintendo gives a crap, because I think like Nintendo, their games are probably not cannibalizing a lot of it. Or if anything, like if they release a new Mario Kart, you're probably going to buy it regardless of when GTA 6 comes out. Even if you're playing GTA 6 in the moment, you're still going to buy Mario Kart the day after, or a week later, 2 weeks later. Like, you're still going to buy it. So I don't think that they really care that much. Matt, let's hope it will not be a big ass disappointment. I believe there is no studio safe from falling nowadays. Yeah, no, I mean, you should never ever think that a studio is above the pressures and crashes and whims of the fates. I remember an interview where Jeff Bezos was asked, do you think Amazon will collapse, go bankrupt, and shut down? And Jeff Bezos, at the time he was the CEO of Amazon, he said, absolutely. Without a question, one day Amazon will go belly up. He said, I just hope it happens after I die. Which, fair. But that's why, like, the East India Trading Company at one point employed roughly a third of the people on planet Earth. There is no company close to that scale, even today. And even that company went belly up. So no company is immune to mistakes or changing markets and different things. Like, stuff happens all the time. You know, I miss the East India Trading Code. Don't we all? I need my spices. So in the gaming industry specifically, I mean, you got to remember also CDPR at one time after The Witcher 3, they were the kings of the industry. The idea that they would have a massive disaster on their hands with Cyberpunk 2077 was unconscionable. At one time, Bethesda, they were considered to be like the best developers in the world. With like right after Skyrim, nobody could come close to them. Hype levels for Fallout were insane. It was fine. They're even pretty good. Then Fallout 76 happens, and you know, ever since then, it's just been a nosedive in terms of their reputation. So no studio is immune. Like, I guarantee you that a day will come where From Software does something really stupid and insane that ticks everybody off. It will eventually happen because it happens to everybody. The hope is that they recover from it, or at the very least it's a minimized mistake and it's not that severe, but it happens to basically every studio. I mean, no company's immune. Might take 20 years before you see them make that mistake, but the odds are it will eventually happen, which is why always a little bit of cautious optimism, a healthy skeptical outlook. But there's also instances where I think it's not somebody's fault if they got conned. Like if you're just straight up lied to by a previously trustworthy source, I don't think that necessarily means you did anything wrong in believing that trustworthy source. You know, like to be specific, if Rockstar only ever puts out gold and then they release GTA 6 and it's a broken, busted pile of garbage and it doesn't run, it doesn't boot, and it's just a glitchy, horrifying mess. Cyberpunk day one, No Man's Sky day one levels of garbage. I don't think you would have necessarily been foolish for falling for that because you were conned, you know? And there's been instances where you can't really avoid that too much because the media infrastructure in the gaming industry and in many industries is built on the premise that people are trying to be straightforward, at least, and companies are going to, of course, make their stuff look good, but they're not just going to outright lie to you. But that's kind of what we ran into with like Cyberpunk 2077, where they just straight up were trying to deceive people. They had the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the games that were disasters, unplayable. And they were still selling them to people, but they wouldn't let anybody share it. They didn't send out review codes for those versions of the game, only for the versions of the game that looked good and ran well. So they got people to buy it, even though that version of the game they knew was unacceptable. And that type of thing, like I don't think it's the customer's fault necessarily for being deceived. Like, I think the blame falls on the deceiver. Yeah, or like Watch Dogs 1 with the downgrades. Exactly. If they release a trailer that looks amazing and they say, no, this is the game, and then you buy it and it's not the game, that wasn't your fault because you looked at the trailer and they guaranteed you this is what it looks like. And then it turns out they were lying. Like, that is another great example. Jack, thank you for the 5. I took yesterday off work and played KCD2 for 16 hours, 11 out of 10. Dude, you're not alone. My brother, Ben, he also took off work and just blasted through it. Rocked and rolled. Man, it's so good. I love that game so much. So much. Okay. Sunjo69, good to see you, my friend. I used to do tips in addition to super chats and stuff on YouTube. I don't know. It was really tough to keep track of everything, though, where it was like, you got bits, you got super chats, you got subs and memberships, and they also have tips over here, and you got like, it got really splintered and crazy. And maybe I'm bad at streaming for this, but I'm not too concerned with the money side of all of this. So I try to keep an eye on chats. Of course, we got like across both platforms, we got over 1,500 people. I think actually with TikTok and X and everything, I think we got like over 2,000 people watching. So sometimes it can get difficult to keep track of everything, but you know, I try at least. The best way, the way to interrupt a segment also is super chats above $20 US. Those get text to speech. So even if I'm really intensely rambling about something stupid, you can interrupt me. Chris, thank you for the 10. I just made it across the lake in KCD2. I'm not lost, but it does seem I'm missing a lot of the story. Should I stop now and play the first game, or do you think I should just continue on and play one later? I would. So Warhorse released their own official story recap. I think it's even in the main menu, is it not? I think it is. I'd watch a story recap. The thing is, once you go back to the first game, it's going to be real clunky. And especially if you're starting with the second and you go back to the first, it's going to make it feel like so out of date, you know? It's like playing The Witcher 1 after you play The Witcher 3. You're like, oh, God. So I'd recommend just watching a recap. Keep it simple, do that, and then continue playing. But I do think they touch a lot on the first game's happenings through flashbacks and things like that. Best way to do it, just watch a recap. But thank you again for the 10. That's very generous. Seth, thank you for that super chat. Luke, you talked about instant knockout in the game. How do I do that? Instant knockout in KCD2? Instant knockout. I'm not sure what you mean by instant knockout. You mean like stealth assassinating people? Oh yeah, Loxy, I've been seeing that too. Yeah. A lot more X posts in the chat too, which is kind of cool. Oh, stealth knockouts. So there's some perks that you can get that, for example, make it so your strength stat makes stealth knockouts significantly easier. If you've not hit the point in the story yet where you like learn how to do them, just keep playing, because there is a point in the story where you will like actually get the chance to sort of train with somebody to learn how to do them. So it's probably that you just haven't gotten there yet, because once you get there, you'll know that you were there, because like it gives you an objective. Work with this person, learn how to do this, you know. So yeah, I would just do that. I would just do that. Keep playing and you should get there. But if you're still like an hour or two in, I don't think you've learned it yet. It is funny how they did it though. People were asking before playing the game, they're like, how do they reset the player's abilities? How do they redo that? Because obviously after the first game, you've got all sorts of skills and abilities and stuff. How do they reset it for the sake of the sequel so you're not just immediately overpowered? And I mean, to say that they just use brain damage is a little oversimplified, but that's basically what they do. It's pretty funny. There's a moment where it's just like, okay, I see what you did there. I see what you did. What's your wish list for KCD 3? Here I'm coming out with a hot take. I don't think they should make KCD 3. I don't think they should do that. I don't think they should do that. I think they should do something new, something fresh. New IP. Could still be medieval, don't get me wrong. But I think they shouldn't bother with that. There's this interesting post here from Thomas Mahler that I think is very on the nose. I was going to read the message.
Hi, Luke.
There
Do
it
you
goes.
recommend KCD 2 if you haven't played the first one? I tried to play the first one and it was so clunky and just couldn't get into it.
You're right. It is very clunky, the first game. They've pretty much every aspect of the first game, they've smoothed out, refined, and improved in the second. So if your primary frustration was clunkiness, significantly better. As for whether you choose to do that, I heavily recommend, of course, story recap, as we touched on earlier. But after you do the story recap and you jump into the second one, I would just really encourage you to think about the quest objectives that you're given, do the side stuff. When it says, go train with this person, learn more combat skills, do that, because Henry will learn new skills you can use in combat that will make it significantly easier. I saw in one of those reviews that claimed the game was too hard and too difficult to get into. You can see in some clips of their gameplay that they don't have certain combat skills for the weapon they're using. They're using like a two-handed sword. They didn't have some of the key abilities and they weren't doing them. Like one of the most basic things in the entire game is with like a two-handed sword. If an enemy is coming at you with the sword over their right shoulder, you position your sword over their left, so just opposing. And then when they go into attack, you basically do a counter where you deflect their sword and stab them in the throat. It's like the easiest, most simple thing possible. And they were just constantly blocking. And then they were like, see, the combat's too difficult. I can't do anything. It's like, yeah, because like you don't know how to play. It's like complaining that Bloodborne's too difficult because you didn't realize there's a dodge button. It's like you missed one of the most basic fundamental aspects of the combat. Like, what are you talking about? And so I just heavily recommend you do those things. You do all that. New Free Roam podcast episode. So I actually just touched base with Jor yesterday about it. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say where he is, but he is somewhere where he can't do the podcast, doing something mysterious. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, oh god, he's dead. No. No, he said he gets back. I think it would be like this weekend, so the next handful of days. And so next week he said, I'm down to get back into the regular swing of things. Yeah. He's in your basement. No, I don't think you can hear him. I mean, no. No, when he told me where he was, I was like, okay. I see you. Montreal again for AC. No, this we went to Quebec, like Quebec City or whatever. Montreal is the other team that's doing like Hexe and did Valhalla. So Montreal's the other place. He went to eat some frikandalen. I don't know what that is. I'm just hungry. Let me guess, French Canada? No. Not French Canada. Okay. Okay, where am I? You're so shady. Well, this is the problem with talking to people about stuff. Just that should just be the quote. This is the problem with talking to people about stuff. But like, I don't want to reveal something I'm not allowed to reveal if it's like hush hush. I don't know if it's hush hush, so I'm not going to reveal it. You know, because it's tough to tell. Like when you're talking to other content creators who, of course, have their own busy schedules or doing their own thing, have their own like sponsorships or have their own business trips to various places. If they just casually mention to you, oh yeah, I'm in I forget where Naughty Dog is, but I'm like in the place where Naughty Dog is on a trip. Like, I don't want to say that. I'm just casually off the cuff be like, oh yeah, this person's hanging out at Naughty Dog studio. And it's like, you were not allowed to say that. I don't want to do that. And to be clear, Jor is not at Naughty Dog Studios, okay? He's not. So nobody get it twisted. Nobody get it twisted. Everything's fine. He's doing something else that might be totally mundane. Or it might be really cool. Little recap, everybody. Also, no copy and pasting messages. It makes chat annoying to look at. Let me talk about this. He's at Rockstar, yeah. Anyone else disappointed in the lack of HDR in KCD2 in 2025? That's pretty lame. I never saw it discussed in reviews. I think it's because most people who were reviewing the game were playing on PC, I would guess. And it's pretty typical, like Windows support for HDR is god-awful. So I used to sell luxury TVs and premium TVs. Like HDR can be great, but HDR support, I don't think should be at the top of the priority list, because even when you get it, half the time in video games it's fake. You remember the whole thing with Red Dead Redemption 2? Their whole HDR system was faked. They basically had a color like filter that stretched out some of the greens and blues into the broader spectrum, and then they just outputted that signal. Like, it wasn't actually rendering at 10-bit. It was just altering a standard like SDR image and stretching it out with like worse contrast. It was really, really disappointing. But a lot of games have done that recently. So I don't find it to be a deal breaker. What's more impressive, HDR or an OLED? I mean, they're different. HDR is like the signal. OLED is the panel. So they're just different. You know, it's one's hardware, one's software. But I would say you will get a lot more out of having an OLED panel than you will out of having an HDR signal. So HDR is beautiful. Like, but if you have the option of playing like Ghost of Tsushima on an LCD versus an OLED, whether HDR is turned on or off, it will always look better on the OLED. So yeah, HDR is bright colors, OLED is perfect black levels. Yeah, HDR just means high dynamic range. And so literally all you can think about it as, just imagine it, where's a good graph of this? Yeah, think of it as just a wider range of colors being available to use. So you see the different triangles covering the spectrum of colors. So you can imagine HDR expands and allows for more fine gradations of color, more like complex gradations to avoid color banding, things like that. Whereas this is, of course, obviously like super exaggerated for the sake of demonstration, but your best bet is always going to be better hardware at the end of the day. Yeah, 8-bit, 16 million possible colors that can be rendered, and 10-bit, which is standard for HDR, is 1 billion total colors. but the gradations between the colors are finer. So it's kind of like having higher resolution, if you think of it that way. But here's the dirty truth. As somebody that sold HDR TVs and did demos of them all the time, the average person can't tell the freaking difference. I swear to God, like the average person is turning on sports mode, which makes everything look like garbage because they think that it looks more cinematic. You know, the old joke about you go over to mom and dad's house and their TV looks horrible because they have all of the motion processing crap turned on. That's the average consumer. So if you have a finer eye and you can spot it, awesome. Awesome. The average person can't tell a damn thing. Tell you what, they just can't. Stop making fun of us average people. We're trying to be cool. Dude, if you can't see the difference between like 60 hertz and 120, or you just don't care, or if you can't tell the difference between HDR and SDR, cherish that gift. Cherish that. Because once you've heard luxury audio, you can never unhear it. Everything else sounds like crap. You know those Nautilus speakers? Yeah, these. Bowers & Wilkins. So Bowers & Wilkins is the company that made the speakers the Beatles used to master all of their music. They make the speakers that Michael Jackson mastered all of his music on. So when you listen to a song and music through Bowers & Wilkins speakers, you are hearing the truest version of the music. And it is amazing. It's literal magic. It sounds like the person is in front of you singing if you have the proper signals and stuff. It's amazing. But these Nautilus speakers, each one of these is each pair is $100,000. On top of that, you need Macintosh amplifiers. You need, of course, the signal. You need all sorts of preamplifiers. To use these speakers, you probably need a total of like $200,000. It's insane, okay? It's outrageous. And I've listened to music on these things. And I wish I didn't, because now everything sounds horrible, okay? So next time your friend is like, hey, you want to come check out my amazing home theater? Say, no, go screw yourself. Because you can never unhear it. It'll change you. It's like, I love me some McDonald's. I love me some Taco Bell, okay? I'm glad I don't have a Michelin star chef's palate. I'm glad that for me, some roast beef with some nacho cheese on it tastes amazing. Put some horsey sauce, we're good to go. Can you imagine how depressing it would be to live life and not love Arby's? Like, what would you even do? How would you find joy? Audiophiles are a different kind of breed. Yeah, I mean, because it's never good enough, because there's always going to be a better speaker, a better amplifier, and it's so freaking expensive. Are you hangry? Yeah. Arby's, Luke, really? Yeah. No, honestly, the best, I think the best crappy food or bad food is probably Texas Roadhouse. I don't even care. I don't care if you guys hate me for it. Texas Roadhouse, those steaks taste better than some of the biggest, baddest steakhouses I've gone to, man. You get the frickin' cinnamon butter. Good to go. Get a big, crappy, margarita. Oh, man. That's the way to do it. Texas Roadhouse. Unironically, we were going to go to a fancy steakhouse for a buddy of mine's birthday.
Rafael Carvalho is now a member.
We changed it to Texas
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
You were right. By the way, 8 months. Just one to go. Thinking about calling it Todd Howard.
That's awesome. my little baby, Todd Howard. Dude, people have been commenting because in the recent videos I've shown my wallpaper. I freaking love it, dude. It's a real picture, by the way. It's a real picture. Todd's just a little fella. He's just a little fella. Just a little guy. Just a little guy. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, 1 month to go. You got this. You're in the home stretch. Chris, thank you for the 5, by the way. I might read this one.
Jack is now a member. I've got 20-year-old Altec Lansing speakers. They were really expensive back in the day, but got them cheap and they still sound amazing.
Good. The thing people don't realize about speakers is that you can actually typically, I knew a guy that did this. He would come in and buy stuff from us. There's an actual thing where you break in speakers. So people don't realize that. They think you just buy speakers, and like any other electronic type of thing, it gets lower in value over time. Not true for high-end music and audio stuff. For high-end speakers, they actually have a break-in period where you need to use them before they like kind of loosen up and get their right timbre, I guess would be the term. And so this guy used to come in and buy like nice Bowers and Wilkins speakers from us. And then he would flip them like a year later after breaking them in. And people would pay an extra like $2-3 grand for them because they were broken in already. But people don't realize that, you know, it's kind of crazy. But Chris, thank you for the 5. Finally able to upgrade my gear. What would you recommend for a top/high tier monitor, but on the lower end of that tier? In short, nice, but not stupid. I only use LG stuff in my studio because LG has some nice OLED gaming monitors. So obviously, like, I don't have my other camera angle working right now, but I have like a big 48-inch OLED monitor in front of me here. I've got the curved 45-inch. I've got those. And I recommend those. I mean, they're not currently paying me to say anything. I mean, I'm not like actively sponsored by them. I don't have a referral code or anything. I just personally really like the LG OLEDs. So I'd recommend those. And they have some in smaller sizes that are like in the 30-inch range. So you could look at that if you wanted something crazy. A lot of people get scared when you hear OLED and monitor, but the burn-in issue is basically not a thing anymore. So heavily recommend those. There's also some really good high hertz or high refresh rate monitors that are coming in the next handful of months that were revealed at CES. So might also be worth waiting a little bit. Get one of those. Okay. Okay. New Warhammer Astartes 2 trailer. Yeah, dude, it looks freaking badass. I put it up on the big projector and my God. Blake, thank you for the 5. That was the closest to white trash I've ever seen / heard you talking about steak like that. Never change. Dude, Texas Roadhouse, you can't go wrong with, man. I went relatively recently to like a very fancy restaurant, like one of those restaurants where they do 15 courses, you know, where they just go crazy with it. I have a picture of the dessert that they brought us out. Like, this was the entire dessert, okay? Each one of those little cubes is like that big. The whole dessert, maybe like 3 inches wide, 4 inches wide. It was good. I frankly would have preferred a scoop of Ben & Jerry's or like, I don't know, a Chick-fil-A frozen lemonade. Just personally, like it was fine, but I've just accepted that I do not have the refined palate to appreciate the fact that it's like, oh, well, this is fennel and this is imported truffle butter from the blah, blah, blah region of France. And this sprinkling of dust is actually ground beetroot that's been aged in a whiskey in a barrel from Japan, like I just don't care. It's like I like, do you have milkshakes? Do you have, I'll take a malt. I'll do that. But no, I've accepted I don't have it. But honestly, I'm okay with that. Because my tastes leave me very happy after $3. I can go to a county fair and get funnel cake, and I will be more happy with that than you are with your $80 pile of little cubes. I respect it. I respect the art and the talent and mastery that goes into making one of those dishes. But I also am just not equipped to appreciate it. You know, everyone loves funnel cake though. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, it's too oily, it's too fried. I'm like, that's the point. Oh man. Yeah, you have a refined enough palate to spit it out. Yeah, it's just, there is a diminishing marginal return on all of this, you know, with all of it, where when you first, like the difference, maybe this is price. Maybe that's what it is. And we'll just assume that price is quality. Okay. So like this is price to or maybe this would be quality and then this is price. I don't know, whatever. The point is the difference between like a $1 cookie or a $1 burger and a $10 burger is massive. It's like, ooh, that's a big difference. I can taste the difference, a lot more to it, much fresher. It's not frozen, actually tastes like something. That's great. $1 to $10 burger, big difference. Or steak, you know, certainly. Difference from like $10 to $50 burger. Yeah, it's still sizable, but I mean the amount of change from multiplying the price so much, I'm not so sure. I mean, yeah, maybe sometimes really treat yourself, but there's a big leap. And then the difference between like a $50 burger steak to a $100 burger steak or a $300 burger steak is like so minimal. I just don't care that much. You know, I'm good. I'm a YouTuber. I love wasting money on frivolous things, as you would expect from a YouTuber. But the high-end food stuff is one where I'm just like, eh. I've also experimented with like high-end cocktails and tequilas and stuff. Jose Cuervo, I'm okay with that. Gets the job done. You know, no need to make it more complicated, you know. Okay. What I was going to say though, where is it? Where's the tab? Because I was going to mention this and then I got uber distracted. I'm sorry. Let me do this. Am I caught up there? I read that one. Okay. I think we're caught up. News segment. One of you guys asked, what would you want in a sequel to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Now that it's out and it's great, what do you want to see in a third game? My hot take is I don't think there should be a third game. I think they should leave it be where it is. And it's funny that you asked this because I already bookmarked a post from Thomas Mahler, the CEO and creative director over at Moon Game Studios, the director of Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori Will of the Wisps, and No Rest for the Wicked. And he actually put this out, and I thought it was so good that I bookmarked it because I think it reiterates one of the problems with modern entertainment in general. He said, there's a reason why a lot of companies do not make a third game in a series. This is also true for movies, at least it should be, frankly, and novels and stuff where you can start to overstay your welcome. But he says, I talked to a few designers about this, and usually it goes like this, and this mirrors my experience with Ori as well. On the original game, everything is exciting. You're finally making the thing you've been dreaming about, but since it's an original creation, you'll be stifled in quite some ways, and everything has to be done from scratch. So even if you end up making a really good game, chances are that you'll be left with the feeling that you still could have improved quite a lot of things, left a lot on the cutting room floor, etc. So then you decide to make a sequel. The most obvious thing to do is to fix with this, or the most obvious thing to fix with the sequel is to do all the things you couldn't do with the first game the first time around. You made something successful. Now you can afford to risk a higher budget. You go through the trials and tribulations, but you get it done. And voila! You've now completed the cycle. You've established a project and then you did your best to perfect it. Unless there's a huge extrinsic motivator, like the company that relies on you to keep making the same thing, a ton of money is being offered, some new tech becomes available, etc. Chances are you'll just have spent 5 to 10 years doing the same things and you'll probably simply need a break. And there it is. The first game was your draft. The second game was where you've perfected your original vision. For the third game, there's more extrinsic motivation required than the first two. And this is the thing where I'm at with KCD 2. The first game was a kickstarted idea, but it wasn't able to fully realize the vision. The second game, KCD 2, is the realization of that vision. It's everything they wanted to do, fully built out. They wrap up the story in a nice way. The story's kind of over and we're good to go. To make a third game, I think would feel contrived. To make a third game, I don't know what... Like, I can throw out some things like, oh, you could go to an even bigger city. You actually go to Prague and you have bigger battles and stuff. But it starts to feel like we're kind of phoning it in, you know? Like we're just doing it because we need to do it. There's not that unique spark or clever idea that makes it really worth it, in my view. So I would rather that Warhorse goes and tries something fresh. I still love the medieval stuff. I think they should stick with that, but I think that they should go the route of something different, something really wacky or crazy. Make a pirate game. Please. Something like that. Do something crazy. Test yourself, push yourself, come up with a clever new idea and then push it like that. But I think in the modern industry, the impulse is to just go and do, you know, remake, sequel, remake, remaster, remake, sequel, remake. And I understand why, you know, games are really expensive right now. It's tough to justify the high risk of a new IP, but I think you got to chase that excitement and the cleverness of the new idea and the sort of creative push that comes with it. I think that's the way to do it. Nacho, thank you. Is he gonna read it? Gonna read it? No. Nacho, thank you for the super chat. Hey Luke, I have a question. Kingdom Come Deliverance has an 80 or an 88 on Metacritic, but only 50 reviews, while other games have over 100. Are there still more reviews coming? This game could or should still hit 90. Love your content. Greetings from Mexico. Greetings, my friend. Yeah, there's a lot of reviews outstanding. There's a number of people and outlets that have not finished the game. I don't understand how that's possible. We were given a month. This is conspiracy theory time. Okay? I don't have any specific evidence for this. Everybody be aware of that. What it sounds like to me is when an outlet or a reviewer has had the game, and of course some people didn't get it when we all, like others, got it, but if they've had the game for a month, that is more than enough time, if this is what you do for a living, to finish the game. So if they didn't get a review out in time, I would suspect that they were waiting to see what the consensus was among critics, and then they were going to herd around that consensus. That's my suspicion. And maybe it's because they were worried of being called names or worried of being an outlier or something. But I have noticed with certain games, there's an impulse to just be like, oh yeah, we're still working on it. And, you know, sometimes if you only had the game for 3 days and it's a 60-hour game, okay, yeah, no, I get it. You didn't finish it. That's fine. But for some of these outlets where they're like, they got the game a month ago and you're telling me they didn't finish it? I'm not so sure I believe that. I'm not so sure I believe that. I said in my review, because I made it before I knew what anybody else thought of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I didn't work with other reviewers and figure out where we're all at. And like all agree on what we were going to score it. I said what I thought of the game. I said it's one of my favorite games of all time. I love it. It's one of the best sequels I've ever played, one of the best narrative RPGs I've ever played. I love this game. I don't know what other people are going to think, but that's what I think. And, you know, it's kind of going out on a limb. And sometimes, you know, you end up right smack dab in the middle of what everyone else was saying. Everybody else is loving it too, you know, and eating it up. Other times, you know, you're a little bit more out of left field. Like I know some people gave Mortismal crap for really liking Dragon Age Veilguard. He was one of like 3 YouTubers that got review codes. It was him, SkillUp, and Maddie. Maddie and SkillUp hated Dragon Age Veilguard, and I think he said at the time it was his front runner for Game of the Year. And people gave him a lot of crap for that, but if he was accurately reporting what he thought of the game, and he came out and said that, props. Because there's a lot of industry people that will just sit and wait to see what everyone else is saying, and then they just follow the herd, which I think is happening with some of these outlets. So now that the consensus is generally really positive, I think you'll see a lot more positive reviews kind of pouring out. How do the Dean Takahashis of the world, the guy who couldn't pass the Cuphead tutorial, those types of guys even call themselves game journalists? I'm not going to be too specific with this, but just to put it in perspective, I went to a gaming press event last year. Was it last? Might have been the year before. In the last like 18 months. And at that preview event / press event, whatever the official name was, there was a handful of people there, you know, some individual creators, people like me, but then there were also representatives of bigger gaming outlets like, you know, Game Riot or I don't think, maybe GameSpot was there. So people like that, you know, from websites. And representing one of the websites, and I won't say, it's like website / podcast. I won't say which one for obvious reasons, but representing one of those was like a young woman and a young man, probably early 20s, both of them. And, you know, we were all very friendly. We all talked about stuff. And at lunch, she said like that she felt really out of place. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're welcome here. I thought she maybe meant that, you know, there were too many guys there or something, but there were other women there. There were other, you know, female journalists there. She says, no, I feel out of place because like I don't even really play video games. I just saw a job posting looking for a female co-host for the podcast. And when I did the interview, they said that I looked the part and they gave me the job. And then now they're sending me to this. And basically what she was saying was that she was hired because they wanted a girl on the podcast. And they didn't really care that she didn't play games, but they just wanted her there. And so then they started sending her to press events and preview events, and then they would film her there. And she's like, I'm not a gamer. Like, I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know like what to do, but I need the job. And I did feel bad for her because she was very sharp. Like she was a brilliant writer. She was very, very, you know, very good at what she did. The core problem was that she was hired to cover an industry she didn't particularly care about and wasn't really interested in, but she needed the job, so she took it. And I think that type of thing does happen, not just, you know, I'm not just trying to make this like about a gender issue or anything. This happens on the flip side too, where a company hires a guy who doesn't play games, but he's maybe a really good journalist and he can pump out articles really quickly. And they hire him and he goes and can't pass gaming tutorials. You know, doesn't really play video games, but he's expected to write articles about it and to talk about it. And you know, it's why I like when outlets have the list of like all the reviews and all the stuff that they've done before, because then you can see like, oh, this person that's reviewing this game and has this totally out of left field take. Oh, they only do movie reviews for IGN, or oh, they only cover PC peripherals. Why are they doing reviews? Like, what are they doing? Alana Pierce? No, Alana's an OG. Alana's like been around forever. I think she worked with IGN. Was it IGN way back in the day? No, this was not Alana Pierce, guys. God damn it. But yeah, there's just, unfortunately, there's stories like that in the industry that pop up a lot. And I felt bad for her because she didn't, like, you know, she didn't do anything wrong. She took a job. She needed a job, and she did her best to try and, you know, do it to the best of her ability. It's just, she was put in a position by her bosses to face the ire of gamers for sake of, I don't know what their goal was, but is she still in the business? I don't know. I haven't seen her. I mean, I haven't seen her at any other events, but what does that tell you? A lot of game journals don't even play games and wish they were political journals. Of course, they start spewing their political agenda as game journal. I mean, yeah, I think that there's a number of instances where it's like, I don't think some of these people are primarily concerned with video games, and they have a contempt for gaming and gamers in general, which you can see pretty clearly in some of their posts. But she was a very sweet person and sharp as a tack. She just was hired into an industry that she didn't know or care about particularly because she just wasn't interested in it, but she needed a job. It's like if you hired me to make videos about basketball and like cover the NBA. Like, I know how to make videos. I know how to make stuff in this industry, but I don't know a damn thing about basketball. Like, so if you sent me down to the court side and I have to start talking about the plays they made, you see, you threw the ball up and got it in the net thing, and you were standing like kind of far away from the net. What was that like for you? Nobody would trust or be interested in anything I had to say, nor should they, because I don't have anything to do with that industry, you know? LeBron with the good gameplay mechanic. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, LeBron, you've gotten really good pretty quick. You know, you were very successful early on in your career. Did you use an XP booster or honestly, that sounds funny. We should do that. That's funny. Skipper, love you, man. I have a question. Do you think I'm justified to install a mod that allows you to save without schnapps? Because it's caused me a lot, to lose a lot of progress. Opinions? I tend to be a purist. For my first playthrough, I play without mods or anything, regardless of the game we're talking about. But I don't blame everybody. Like, if the thing that's going to prevent you from playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the save system, just download mods and enjoy the game the way you need to enjoy it. There's a reason they have it that way. There's a reason they want you to go back to your bed to save, and it's because it forces you to go back into town. And when you go back into town, you can upgrade and improve your gear, repair your gear. Like, it's all kind of a sort of passive aggressive way of getting you to go back to the hub of civilization where you do all of the other upgrades and stuff that you might not do if you never need to go to your bed, you know? So it's part of the loop that they're trying to establish. It's just, it can be frustrating. I will say that once you're like 15 hours in, you'll have enough money and resources to just get all the savior schnapps you need. The other thing is, full savior schnapps, they heal you a bit when you save as well. Weak savior schnapps are way cheaper and just save the game. And you can keep like 10 in your inventory at any given moment and you're fine. So I And part of it, again, with the loop is it's like it wants to encourage you to go and get money to be able to buy savior schnapps, or to go and focus on the herbalist stuff and actually brew it yourself. So it's all part of the loop. That's, I think, the point. So I'd encourage you to try playing without the mod first and just really give it a good old college try. But if you're like, nope, I need it to enjoy the game, download it. Totally fine. Like, who am I, or who is anybody else to try and tell you how to play or how not to play a game? Like, do what you need to do to have a good time. Okay. Ooh, baby. Dude. When the market took a crap a handful of days ago, you know, I bought a bunch of call options for a stock I've been holding that I think is doing quite well. And, you know, everybody had sold off and was freaking out. So I bought call options. I was like, well, I'm not convinced that this is all going belly up. And now it's recovering. And so those options are looking mighty juicy right now. I'll tell you what. Yeah. Okay. I feel like we have to talk about Dragon Age, don't we? And this was interesting. Okay. Mini segment. I don't even know if this is a full segment or whatever, but I do think this is interesting. So Assassin's Creed News, they tweeted this out, which is a screenshot from Elvira 04289. And basically it's a screenshot from Rise of the Ronin with an armor set that's just labeled Yasuke's armor. And it says, it is said to have belonged to the famous African samurai Yasuke, retainer of Nobunaga Oda. Among other things, Yasuke is remembered for his valiant display of courage, fighting for the Oda clan during the Honoji incident, a fateful coup during which his lord lost his life. Spoilers! Oh no! And the reason that they brought this up is because they're pointing out that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of outrage about this. Like, people are not calling for Rise of the Ronin to be canceled. This has just flown totally under the radar. And so the implication, of course, is that there's manufactured outrage with it. And so you can see here, like, they also show clips from Neo. And the point is, a lot of the people that are freaking out about AC Shadows specifically are acting in bad faith. That's the sort of implication here. So my stance with all this is that I'm a gaming content creator first. I care about the games, and I think that there's many reasons to be hesitant with AC Shadows, let's say. I don't think you have to go to historical accuracy to find things to maybe pay close attention to and to cause you to sit up and go, Because even Yasuke as a playable character doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because he's literally not an assassin in an Assassin's Creed game. So I don't really know why he's a playable character. I'm like, Naoe can parkour, has eagle vision, has the grapple hook. She's got all these cool moves and cool parkour abilities and stuff. And then Yasuke can smash stuff. I don't understand why he's in the game. Personal opinion. Having played it, I just don't see it. I know that's upset some AC fans, but that's just where I'm at. I think if you are pointing to AC Shadows for sake of culture war reasons, I get why. Especially when the hip hop inspired music started playing when he came out around in the first gameplay reveal. I get it. Trust me. That one it's hard to say that you're not trying to pander when you start doing that stuff. It's but I do think if we want to be consistent, and if the the accusation is that inclusion of Yasuke as a character, implying that he's a samurai, when the historical record is at the very least shady when it comes to that point. We got to be consistent. Like, you should also be calling out Rise of the Ronin. You should also be calling out Neo. Not really seeing that, because these are coming from predominantly Japanese studios and developers, and so it doesn't really fit the narrative as well as Ubisoft, which is a French company. You know, there's been other things which I do think start to fall into the realm of bad faith, like people freaking out because it's like, you can go into temples in AC Shadows and break stuff, therefore it's culturally insensitive. It's like, okay, and then in other AC games, you literally go and assassinate people within cathedrals. You have a fist fight with the Pope. Like, where were you guys freaking out then? Why are we freaking out over this now? You know, it starts to feel like we're picking and choosing, you know, pretty heavily. Because none of this is new, you know, and people are only freaking out now. And this is where I start to get really turned off on the whole discussion, because I personally hate puritanical thinking. You know, when you have a Puritan test that games or products and things have to pass, otherwise you boycott them, otherwise you attack anybody and everybody that's interested in it or wants to look at it and stuff. Whether it's Hogwarts Legacy, whether it's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, AC Shadows, what's another one? Forspoken, Saints Row Reboot, whatever it is. Like, and in my experience, these games that tend to prioritize like activist participation and representation of their messaging and stuff in the narratives, they end up, shocker, being really bad games. Because if you were a good writer, you would just be called a writer. You would not have to go pitch yourself as an activist writer. You know? Because you'd be hired because you're a good writer, not because what you're writing is important, but because you're good at writing. So my general approach is to just not really engage with any of those types of debates or like puritanical checklists of whether you met the purity standards for all of this. Like, oh, did one of the employees of the studio have this in their bio? Oh, therefore the whole game has to be boycotted now. Like, I just don't think that that's that interesting. Instead, I think you can just look at the games, engage the games and their quality. And if other people want to make content and tackle stuff based on these cultural aspects, cool, more power to you. I'm just not that interested in that particular topic. I'm interested in the quality of the game at the end of the day. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, people were arguing that that should also be boycotted, ends up being one of my favorite games of all time. And it's fantastic. You know, I like it. I'll stand by that all day, every day. AC Shadows might end up being like bad, might end up also being amazing. We don't know. I have my suspicions because I wasn't convinced by a good amount of what I saw, but time will tell. But you better believe, like, if I end up giving AC Shadows a thumbs up or I end up giving it a thumbs down, it will be based on what the game is and how the game functions, runs, plays, all that, not based on some checklist that I held the game to. If other people want to gauge their whether a game is playable based on that type of thing, more power to you. I don't think that that's a great way to go through your gaming journey, because I think that you're going to miss out on a lot of great games that maybe don't pass that Puritan standard, because it's the same type of thought process that led to mass like downvotes on the original Kingdom Come Deliverance game because people said it was too white. There weren't enough like diverse people in the game, even though it's set in medieval Bohemia. And now you're seeing it on the flip side with people wanting to boycott the game and get it shut down because it has like a gay romance option. It's two sides of the same coin, and I just think it's an inconsistent, to say the least, way of gauging a game's quality, when you can also just look at the game and determine whether it's good or bad based on the fundamentals of what makes a game good or bad. Gameplay loops, writing quality, those types of things. Valaha, are you excited about Judas? Dude, Judas is such a weird mystery right now. Also, who did this? Joe Biden signed the Hollywood Talent Agency, CAA. A new mummy movie is in the works. Oh, okay. That's funny. You got me. You got me on that one. That's funny. I see. This is why I can't have X open like while we're doing this, is because that'll just pop up on my feed, and I'm like, how am I supposed to maintain focus right now? How do I even do that? Oh man. How does KCD 2 treat gay relationships? Honestly, I don't really know, because you do control the buttons you press, and no spoilers, but with the way I played the game, I went in a different direction. There were other opportunities to find some romantic entanglement. So I don't know. You control the buttons you press. If you want to pursue those relationships, cool. Whatever. I don't care. But I don't know, because I didn't see them. I didn't. Yeah, Luke went with a bear love option. Yeah, I went and searched for a bear. That's the other thing. Why don't those same people freak out about that? They're promoting bestiality in Baldur's Gate 3. One of the most critically acclaimed games of all time. Got real quiet when it comes to that game. But if that game released today, they'd be freaking out about it. I think it's because you can't really talk about that game and still stand on the premise that any inclusion of any of these topics or things, it makes a game therefore bad, because clearly it doesn't inherently make the game bad. Yeah, they never bring it up. Yeah, I think it's just because, bro, Mass Effect promoted interspecies relationships. Yeah. The CCCP really didn't like it. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. I don't know. We talk about games. I think you can, inevitably some of this stuff is going to leak into the discussion, just because it's kind of impossible for it not to at times. But do I love talking about student loans when I'm talking about a video game? No. But if I'm playing a Saints Row reboot and the characters just keep bringing up student loans, I'm going to have to mention how stupid it is, Yeah, I was talking about Judas. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought somehow. Judas, I just don't know what's happening. It's supposed to be out next year. I think this year. It's been something stupid 8 months since they did their last media thing. Judas trail, or no, it was the Judas interview. It was 10 months ago. So we're approaching a year since they went on and did the whole Ken Levine interview. He went on a few others. He also talked to them at IGN about the narrative Lego stuff. And then he just disappeared for a year. Yeah, Jeff is awkwardly there. I don't know what Jeff's doing there. He just shows up, man. I need me a Jeff Keighley cardboard cutout. That's what I need. So parts of the game look really, really cool. I'll be honest, I still don't freaking know what narrative Lego means. I've watched hours of him explaining it, and I still don't get it. He's like, well, it's like a Lego set. Each narrative piece is a brick, and then you can build your own thing out of those bricks. I'm like, okay. So how is that functionally different than a choose your own adventure game? Where you make choices and navigate to it. I don't know if it is different. I don't know if it is functionally different. Because every time I've heard him explain it, it just starts to sound like a choose your own adventure game where it's like, oh, and you chose to go this route. So now this dialogue happens here instead of over there. And then you chose to go this route and open this door, which means that now this thing, this level happens here instead of over there. I'm like, okay, but how is that different than like a narrative choose your own adventure game, like a Detroit Become Human? But this is like Detroit Become Human, but with FPS gameplay. Okay, that sounds cool. But it's like, no, it's much more dynamic because any piece can go anywhere. And I'm like, okay. It could be amazing. But my fear is that it's just going to turn into like the really convoluted, what's happening? I chose to do this instead of that. And now this story element doesn't really make sense, but they hand wave it away by being like, it's all a dream or something. Because if you haven't played BioShock Infinite, which was like the last big game that this guy did, the ending, and especially the DLC stuff, is just, I don't even know if I'd consider it a good ending. It just starts to get, it's like the ending of Lost. It's kind of like that, where it's like we were on track. I was following, and now I have no clue what we're doing. Like, oh, it's all a dream, multiverse, time's bending, but also changing. It's like, I would rather just there'd be an explanation. Just tell me what's going on instead of, it doesn't make sense, but that's part of it.
Payne 97 donated $49.99.
Jeez, very generous.
Super chat. Don't know if you or anyone in chat would like this, but I recently found a musical that was written with boss fights like in video games and anime. It's called Epic and finished its
Oh, it stopped reading it. It's called Epic and finished its concept album last month. Figured you might appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you for telling me. I will pull that open in another tab and I will look at it. After the stream, I'll check it out. That sounds awesome. Thank you for the recommendation. That's baller. It reminds me of that musical game. There was like that video game musical thing that Troy Baker and Laura Bailey and a bunch of those guys worked on. We looked at it on stream maybe a month or two ago. I'd never realized it came out, but apparently did. Morpheus, thank you for the 5. Luke, my CO, AV, brethren. Scalpers got to the all-new GW Eldar models, and I'm fuming. What is your favorite 40k faction? And do you play the tabletop? Yeah, I do. It's just out of frame, but I've got the glass case as well, the Warhammer stuff. Favorite Warhammer faction, I think it's Thousand Suns. Probably the favorite one to play, though, that I have are Orcs. Because it's just fun to roll 80,000 dice and go crazy. Plus, it's such a shift from Thousand Suns where it's very much about auras and then managing Cabal points and all this stuff. Orcs are just like, here's 80 guys, run. It's fun. Yeah, heretic. Yeah, you're damn right. You're damn right. At least we know how to have fun. You seen the Vortex Beast? Yeah. Slimy. That's all I'll say. Slimy. Okay, should we touch on this? Okay. News segment. Thoughts on recent Bloodborne on PC emulation? Was that the one that got DMCA'd? I think that's one that got DMCA'd by Sony. If it stays DMCA'd, that's really freaking stupid. But it also suggests to me that maybe they have their own plans. My stance has been for the last year that I think Sony does do a remaster or something of Bloodborne, but I think they save it till the PlayStation 6 launch. I think that's one of the launch titles. Kind of like how the Blue Point remake of Demon's Souls was a launch title. I think the PS6 launch game is going to be a remaster / remake of Bloodborne. It's just going to print money. Easy money. Is that a Henry statue in the back? Sure is. We opened it on stream on whatever that was, Monday. And yeah, so Henry's with us now. Okay. Where was thoughts on the Covenant game trailer? Covenant game. Which one was that? I mean, the fact that I don't immediately remember what Covenant game reveal trailer was probably means that it didn't leave that big of an impact on me. Oh yeah, this one. I saw this one pop up in my feed. I need to see like extended gameplay. The trailer looks good, but the trailer also looks really artificial and processed and stuff. So I would need to see like extended gameplay personally. And then LeBron, thank you for that super chat. Do you think we have not heard much about Judas because they're under Take Two and they're waiting for an internal word on GTA 6 to play and everything? Mafia, Borderlands 4 are supposed to come out this year as well. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think there's a very, very good chance that Judas gets delayed again. So I think that's a big part of it too. Because the one thing we know from Ken Levine is that he is bad at getting stuff out on time. With BioShock Infinite, he restarted development something insane like 3 separate times. So it would not surprise me if it gets delayed, and that's not coming out to like late 2026. You're right, Mafia is supposed to come out this year. Of course, they've got Borderlands 4 under the same helm that they're publishing. So they might also be waiting to decide what they're doing with GTA 6. But either way, we should probably know a lot more after the earnings call tomorrow. They should outline pretty much all of that. So, okay. News segment. I thought you guys were joking. I really did. On Monday on stream, you guys mentioned this. I thought you were joking. You weren't. The official Assassin's Creed Shadows art book got leaked on a hentai site. Somebody came in a chat, was like, Luke, AC Shadows, bunch of story stuff just leaked. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Then you said, on a hentai site. Orum, was it you? Yeah, I was like, okay. I can't tell if that's a joke or not. I don't know anymore. The internet, this whole thing is a simulation. I have no idea. Turns out it's true. In a sentence which may never have been written before and which I will surely be challenged about when I try to get into heaven, the official art book for AC Shadows has leaked on a hentai website in its entirety. Originally spotted by enterprising Reddit users who were no doubt browsing the website in question for precisely this kind of content, the official art of the AC Shadows, the book, sprang up without warning on the e-hentai archive. No, I'm not linking it. Sometime in the past few days. It's since been yanked down, but I was able to verify the book's presence on the website before it could be removed, setting me up for some very cool conversations with PC Gamer's IT department. What if this whole thing, imagine if this whole thing was like fake and it never leaked there, but it was just a PC Gamer employee got caught on a hentai site and was like, it's because I saw the art book for AC Shadows. That's why. Just never actually existed. They just didn't want to get fired. That would be really funny. But I'm sure that they actually saw it because other people have reported on this too. They said what it did contain was a couple 100 images of location and character designs for Ubisoft's upcoming Samurai Sim, giving us a glimpse at the places you'll go, people you'll meet, and enemies you'll dispatch in the hundreds over the course of the game. We even get some insight into just who that plucky kid that inexplicably dominates the game's key art is. Turns out he's an 8-year-old bundle of relentless positivity who has a pet monkey, so there's someone I'll be leaving back at the mission hub. Yeah. Our anonymous leaker did not explain how they got their hands on the art book or why, of all the websites on the internet, they chose to leak it on a destination for cartoon smut. They just dropped the gift and left like a pornographic Scarlet Pimpernel. I'll be honest, this guy's cooking. Whoever's writing this, Joshua Wolins, you're cooking, my brother. This is crazy. Very well written. I'll be honest, it looks quite good. It all looks quite good. I have to tip my hat to all the research and enthusiasm that's so evident in the lovingly, I can read, rendered images of terrible things happening in feudal Japan. Despite the fact that someone, presumably Ubisoft, has taken that book down, the horse is very much bolted, and it's not hard to find copies of the things scattered all over the internet by now. Some places you can even visit on your own work computer. There's always the chance, of course, that this is some kind of bizarre, elaborate hoax and someone ginned up their own fake AC art book and uploaded it to the porn site out of an abundance of free time. I have my doubts, though, but you never know. So I've reached out to Ubisoft to confirm that the book is official merch and the company got it taken down itself, and I'll update this piece when I hear back. They have not updated it since, so they seemingly have not confirmed. This is insane. Like, this is crazy. You can't make this up. My guess is probably what happened is that they sent the like PDF, whatever, of the game or of the art book to a print manufacturer or whatever for the book that probably was in China, Japan, wherever, you know, they print. I would imagine China is where they print a lot of this, like these big mass production books. And then somebody got the PDF file and just uploaded it to a place like that. There's been stories of like other leaks and stuff leaking to like Pornhub. I remember there was, I forget what game it was, but there was some cutscenes. Maybe it was The Last of Us Part 2. One of the places that they uploaded a bunch of the videos of Joel was on Pornhub, which was crazy. So who knows exactly what happened here, but it's a funny story. It's a funny story. Which is funny. Bustin' Us says Grums even had another meltdown over it, calling it uninspired because it reuses some pieces of old concept art, even though that's pretty normal. Grums is a dev not understanding concept art. Can you even call him a dev at this point? Because isn't his game like a straight up scam? Like after years, there's still nothing. But anyway, I think it's just, again, truth is stranger than fiction, my friends. It's absolutely insane. When you guys posted this in chat on Monday, I was like, okay, well, sure. I'm not falling for that. I'm not Googling AC Shadows hentai website because then I'm on all sorts of lists and you would have all had a good laugh. Turns out it's real. I thought it was a joke. It's real. So there you go. It's real. So they really cannot catch a break with this damn game. It's amazing. I can't think of another game that has just had this consistent trouble with like every single little bitty thing. It really is remarkable. It's quite impressive, but man. Anyway, there you go. Another stupid thing we should talk about. It's a marketing stunt. I mean, apparently like it actually leaked. Like there's other outlets that have like some of the pictures from it. So it apparently actually did leak, and it's not typically a marketing strategy to intentionally leak your story and different components like that. So who knows? Who knows? Okay. News segment. So there's a few things in life that are pretty locked in solid, right? Like death, taxes, EA having more loot box type things in their sports games. There's some locked in things, but one of the other locked in things you can always be confident in is that executives within gaming companies will not understand why things were poorly received and will intentionally twist things to further their own desire instead of admitting that they did something wrong. And this is another story just like that. Dragon Age the Veilguard was loved by, quote, those who played, says EA, but, quote, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience, partially because it released into a highly competitive market. It's, it's interesting enough. Basically, there was an EA like earnings call, financial call, where they went through a bunch of their stuff, and there's been some interesting revelations as part of all of this. The initial thing we got like a week ago or so was that Dragon Age: The Veilguard reached 1.5, or I think they said engaged 1.5 million players. That is possibly, I mean, they didn't say sold 1.5 million copies. They said it reached and engaged 1.5 million players, which probably means they're counting returns. They're counting duplicate players on consoles. Like if I bought the game on PS5, my wife also played it through my same copy on her user profile, that would count as 2 players, even though only 1 copy was sold. So I think they're fudging the numbers a little bit. But either way, they were expecting 3 million. 3 million would have still lost money based on how much time they spent developing this game, but it would have lost less money than if they only engaged 1.5 million players. And so without a doubt, I mean, they missed their expected target by over 50%, because again, they expected 3 million. They engaged 1.5 million, which means they sold less than 1.5 million, which means more than 50% of the target was missed, which is bad. But now they got to explain it to investors, which, you know, is always a little bit tricky. Dragon Age: Veilguard reportedly didn't meet its publisher's expectations, with sales previously said to be down nearly 50% from what EA initially hoped for, and subsequent layoffs reported across BioWare. We covered just the other day that there's reportedly less than 100 people working at BioWare now, and like literally every single person that was in the credits in a like senior writing role, all of them are gone. Like they've literally moved or fired or welcomed to retire everybody who is credited as a senior writer or like lead writer on Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which props. It's not that common that you have a game that does poorly and the universal consensus is that the writing sucks. Typically, the problems with the game are more numerous or more, you know, nuanced. They intertwine with 5 other problems. And so it's not that easy to just be like, you guys were the problem, you're gone. In this case, it really is that simple. It's like, there were a lot of things that were really impressive about Dragon Age: Veilguard. It was remarkably well optimized. Graphically, it was really, really impressive. There was a lot of really cool stuff going on there. The writing was the problem. That was the big problem at the core that just rotted it to the core that you couldn't find yourself out of. And the more you played it, the more it drove you crazy. So they were able to trim all of that and respond to it very, very directly, which seems to have happened. But they went on, speaking in a recent earnings call, CEO Andrew Wilson confirms as much, explaining that the overall sales EA's published games saw this past quarter didn't hit, quote, the financial performance we wanted or expected. He goes on to name The Veilguard. Describing the company's blockbuster storytelling strategy, Wilson says that Dragon Age, quote, had, oh my God, I don't want to search for the letter D. It's the one thing about this Opera version I have, which is that it randomly searches for things when I highlight. If I tap that, it drives me crazy. I bet I can disable it. I just gotta figure out how. Anyway, he says that Dragon Age, quote, had a high quality launch and was well reviewed by critics and those who played. Let me be a little pedantic here. You only let a very select few people review the game. Yeah, D's in the chat. You only let a very, very carefully selected group of people review the game. And even a lot of those people hated it, okay? Because, like, there's some instances where you can say that maybe it's just luck of the draw that this person didn't get a review code and this person did. Maybe it's just how the cookie crumbled. For example, with Indiana Jones, I didn't do any like review coverage, preview coverage of Indiana Jones. And I was told that was because I was not on the Disney approved list. Disney had to specifically approve you as a content creator to be allowed to talk about and cover Indiana Jones. What's interesting is I was Disney approved when I went to a preview event for another Disney property, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. I didn't think the game was that amazing. Didn't give it flying marks. And then like a year later, I'm not on the Disney approved list anymore, which is funny. But anyway, I was told that's why I did not get Indiana Jones review codes or preview access or anything. It's because specifically Disney did not want me there. I kind of wear it as a badge of honor, frankly. I think that's pretty cool. Having said that, though, in that case, you could kind of say, oh, maybe it's not the game developer's fault. Like, I didn't get an Indiana Jones review code. Cool. I'm not entitled to it. They just told me you're not on the list, so we can't send it to you. Sorry. Respect it. Totally fine. Totally cool. What happened with Dragon Age the Veilguard was different. They told all of us we were getting review codes. We set aside time and resources and money to review the game. I had Jacob ready to go to edit a review of Dragon Age the Veilguard as the days started approaching. Then I hear little rumblings. A little birdie tells me, yeah, I'm reviewing Dragon Age the Veilguard. You haven't gotten a code yet? No. Interesting. So I email our contact at EA. And then I send her like a XDM. I hear back a day later or so. Oh, no, we're sending it to you. We're going to get it to you. We just, it's going to be like the day before launch. It's like, okay, so that's not a review code. Just so we're on the same page. That's not what that means. Like, just to be clear, if I cannot physically complete the game in time for the review embargo, it's not a review code. It's an early access code, but it's not a review. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. It's like, oh, well, we're just going to get it to you as soon as we can. Okay. Day before launch comes. Reviews are dropping. Nope. No review code or early access code. Email them again. Yeah, we're going to get it to you tomorrow. Worst case scenario, it comes the day after launch. And then they just ghost us. Not just me. Dozens of other streamers, YouTubers, even people that went to the preview event, and even people at the preview event who had pretty positive impressions. So at that point, you've got to pause and ask, okay, they gave it to these people. They did not give the review codes to these other people. Why? Why did those people get selected? Because it wasn't like they just filtered the list by the most subscribers, because they didn't. There were some big YouTubers that didn't get review codes. There were some big ones, of course, that did, like Skill Up. But then there were some small ones that got access to the game comparative to other people and other reviewers. So it wasn't like they did that. They weren't filtering by average views. They weren't filtering by all of that. So there was some way, some criteria by which they gauged who to send the codes to that we were not privy to. And so they were, I mean, obviously, if they're going to be selective, they're going to send it to the people that they think they stand the best chance of impressing, and that when they're impressed, they're going to like the game the most and promote it, and they're going to get the best payoff for it. Made a bit of an oopsie because they sent it to Maddie, who hated it, and then they sent it to Skill Up, who also hated it. And Skill Up's review has done like over 2 million views and probably single-handedly prevented this game from hitting financial targets. I mean, it's honestly not that unreasonable to say if his review did 2 million views, they missed their goal by 1.5 million. If his review were glowing and those 2 million people were told, no, it's amazing, that would have moved the needle some, I think. So I think regardless, they were very selective with reviews, and we're not entitled to the review codes, to be clear. Like, I'll be fine. If anything, I think technically with our videos covering the fact we didn't get a code and EA's bizarre behavior around it, I think I got more views than if I just made a damn review. So I'm good either way. I don't need, like, for sake of business, I don't need the review code. What I have a problem with is being lied to and strung along for days upon days upon days, and then ultimately just like ghosted. I find that very unprofessional, and I've never had that happen before with any company. My manager too. He was like, I've never seen this before. He couldn't get them to respond to him, or even the people higher up in the company. He couldn't get them to respond. It was really, really bizarre. So to me, it was pretty clear that they were trying to carefully and very specifically boost the Metacritic score so that they could come back and tell their investors that they got positive reviews. Even though if they had totally opened it up to everybody, it probably would not have been that positive. But they go on. However, he admits, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in this highly competitive market. Later on during the financial call, Chief Financial Officer Stuart Canfield agrees that Veilguard underperformed. Quote, historically, Canfield describes, blockbuster storytelling has been the primary way our industry brought beloved IP to our players. This approach didn't work for Veilguard, with Canfield noting a changing market. Get ready for this. The game's financial performance highlights the evolving industry landscape and reinforces the importance of our actions to reallocate resources towards our most significant and highest potential opportunities. Translation. Dragon Age Veilguard, this type of game used to be our bread and butter. We used to be able to make millions by millions of dollars on these types of games. We're struggling to do that now, so we just need to put more effort into and money into our sports FC games, into our Madden, those core games that have significant and highest potential. That's all this means. A majority of the call was spent discussing EA Sports FC 25, but as a longtime fan of Dragon Age series myself, EA's words on the Veilguard are difficult to process, as are the recent developer layoffs. Let's see. Our own Dragon Age Veilguard review dubbed the game a true return to RPG form for BioWare, with many others expressing similar sentiment, believing it was one of the best RPGs of 2024. I mean, there weren't a lot of good RPGs last year, but still, damn. I don't find it hard to square at all. I mean, there is perhaps even with that. Like let's look at that. Perhaps even with that. So Dragon Age Veilguard right now is sitting more at like an 82. I know we could point to like user scores and be like, oh, see, this is the problem. You can't really look at user scores for any of this, especially when there's like hot button cultural issues at play with the game's discussion, because it's going to get mass downvoted. So you just can't, like they tried to mass downvote Black Myth Wukong when it first came out. You know, there were people on like Blue Sky trying to coordinate that or whatever it was. So you just never know. I would just say, you know, don't put too much weight into that. That being said, there's a huge disparity between this sentiment and I think where a lot of other people landed. You know, I think the average consumer did not look at that as a 10 out of 10. My wife, hardcore Dragon Age fan, she was horribly disappointed by it. Thoroughly disappointed by it. I mean, even some of these are the same companies. Eurogamer gave it a perfect score. Eurogamer Germany also gave it a perfect score. So multiple of these are just being inflated by like these big companies that have multiple branches that for some reason are given multiple spots on a Metacritic page, even though really that's not reflective of the overall sentiment. You know, perhaps the better alternative would be like OpenCritic with Dragon Age, the Veilguard here, where it's slipping into the 70s. You still get some 10 out of 10s. Dude, Joshua Duckworth played 100 hours in 3 playthroughs. How do you play that game 3 times? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. How do you play that game 3 times and not go crazy? I don't know, man. I don't get it. BioWare manages to recover in Dragon Age Veilguard the good tone of its youth and proposal that convinces by the good work of the team, deep story that returns us to the magical world of Thetis, those whose regions reinvent themselves for the occasion. A very well-designed combat and possibility of exploring in depth different scenarios as we advance in the adventure. Our finishing touch of an experience that leaves us more than satisfied. Oh, IGN Spain. I thought this was core IGN. I think my main takeaway from all of this, though, even with the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 stuff, there is a fundamental disconnect between, I think, the average consumer that's buying these types of games and that's moving the needle on the financial performance of them, and the journalistic class or whatever in the games industry. There's just a gap. There's a gap. And sometimes, you know, journalists will review a game really poorly and everybody else loves it. And then on the flip side, there's times where they review it really positively and the average gamer just doesn't connect with it anywhere near as much. Or maybe they do buy it, but they just don't find it particularly amazing. You know, maybe like a Death Loop, where there were a bunch of companies calling that game a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. And most people played it and were like, it's fine, but it's not great. Like, I don't get it. But who knows? I mean, Dragon Age Veilguard, I think, is just one of those games that will probably be studied, you know, over the next handful of years, because it is really, really fascinating, this disconnect. But because you're right, if you read a lot of the reviews, you would think that this game is going to do well. But the people they needed to buy it didn't buy it. So there was a disconnect between the reviewers, because if the reviewers were in touch and were in tandem with the people that they needed to buy it, good reviews would mean good sales. Just like if Vati, you know, makes a review of a new Elden Ring game or a new From Software game, if he's positive on it, there's probably going to be a lot of other From Software fans that are going to love the game. In the same vein, if he hates it, they probably will also hate it. But the point is, he's in tune and is in congruity with the average consumer of that product. But with a lot of these game journalists that were covering these games, there was a disconnect, because I think what they needed for Dragon Age, they needed the Kingdom Come Deliverance fans. They needed the Baldur's Gate fans. They needed those people to buy the game. And they ended up pursuing a market that was not big enough. This modern audience, this modern market that, if it exists, is just not big enough to justify games of this scale. You know, I think that's a big issue. And I don't know how to really fix it from their perspective, other than they need, if these outlets want to be more in touch with the average gamer, I think they need to hire more typical gamers and stop talking down to them so much. But for me and my business, it's good, because it means that people are just going to come back to individual creators that they connect with more. You know, if you're like, hey, I tend to agree a lot with Skill Up on games. What did he say about the game? Go watch him. Like, very few people are making purchasing decisions based on Eurogamer, based on IGN or whatever. They'll check it out for the memes, see kind of what the sentiment is very quickly. But they're not making their purchasing decisions based on those outlets. I think the influence might be like 5% of an individual's purchasing decision, whereas like Skill Up's review might be 30% or 40% of their purchasing decision. So, were you ever a game journalist or just a gamer like us? I've never worked as a games journalist. I'm just some guy sitting in a basement rambling about video games. Yeah. The more I spend with corpo people, the more I realize the higher ups are the dumbest people in society. I think a lot of the time, in order to move up in a corporation, a big, like, soulless, lifeless corporation, you have to be capable of like playing this weird game, this corporate game. And if you don't, you just like, you'll never climb the ladder. But I just, it tends to promote the types of people that you don't want to promote. It's why the story of like when Elon bought Twitter, you know what he did? This is funny. Whether you love or hate Elon, this is funny. He walked in and he went to all of the mid-level managers. Because, you know, you got the underlings that are the engineers that do the work. Then you have the managers that manage the people doing the work. And then you have the upper level managers that manage the people who manage the people that do the work. And then you have the executives and those guys. He pretty much gutted all the executives. And then he went and he asked the managers managing the developers, he said, give me a list of your most efficient employees, the people that do the best work, like basically rank them in terms of how good they are. Because we need to do layoffs. We need to lay off some, like the bottom of the list. So rank them top to bottom. So the managers did that. Gave Elon the list. He goes, thank you. You can go. Number 1, David, you're the manager now. And booted all the mid-level managers out and promoted the people that were actually doing the work. And he said, you get to decide who your team is. You're not just going to sit in an office and do nothing all day. You're going to select people to work with you. And then you're going to basically be a strike team and you're going to do that. Easy. But he's like, we're not going to keep people. What happened was that you had people who were good at managing, but weren't good at the work they were doing. They moved up because they weren't the best. Because the people who are the best at the coding and the low level work, they didn't want to move up or they were too busy to, because they're like, I'm doing my stuff. I don't have time to think about a promotion or this stuff. I'm doing my thing. And so he just took those mid-level managers out and then promoted the other guys. Yeah, the guys who made the list got fired too. Yeah, to be clear, in case this wasn't clear, they booted out the manager who made the list because they didn't think that the manager who made the list actually did any of the work. So they booted him out. The person who did the work and knew what they were doing got to become the one in charge. And so I think that tends to be a problem, is you just end up with these corporate, you know, these guys that know how to play the corporate game who get promoted and climb the ladder and then eventually end up in a position of leadership, even though they have no idea what they're doing or what the actual work is. Yeah, anyway. Bustin, I liked him for trimming down Twitter's fat, but at least he could have kept the moderation team too many flat earthers and bots. Dude, for me, it wasn't the flat earthers. For me, like, the flat earthers are funny. The problem was the like the random videos of like war crimes and murder and stuff that just would casually pop up on like your feed. It was crazy. I was like, how on earth is this a thing? Oh man, KCD2 is pretty. Look at that. It's just pretty. And it doesn't look like your monitor is covered in Vaseline either. That's the thing. I do think there's going to be a lot of games. I think there's going to be a lot of games this year that rely heavily on upscalers to hit performance targets. I really think it's going to be a thing. Oh wow. KCD2 has topped 1 million sales already. A day after launch has a new concurrent record peak of 170,000 and it will continue to rise over the weekend, almost certainly. I just don't get the boycott campaign with this game and why some thought it would work. I mean, there's like 5 people freaking out about it. Celebrating the game losing players when everyone is going to sleep. Doubt they'll acknowledge this rise. Give it 2 weeks. When most have finished the game, they'll start celebrating again. These people call journos activists, but literally they're copying their playbook. Yeah, I mean, it's 2 sides of the same coin. Like, it's just insufferable. Hurts my brain. I just don't have the energy, man. Don't have the energy. Went over Monster Hunter PC specs. I tried the benchmark thing that they have. It ran well enough. Yeah, the new Atomic Heart DLC trailer. I kind of forgot they were doing tons of DLC, but yeah, they did a ton, and it looks pretty good. Peter, Luke, I'm wondering how one can be more strategic at playing D&D. I find myself hesitating on what to do in certain encounters, conversation, and combat. Best way to fix that is with a couple shots of like tequila or whiskey. It will loosen you up and you'll become more impulsive, and thus you won't struggle with that. The other way to deal with it that's less alcoholic is to just focus on like different heuristics. So if you're playing a character that is very like impulsive, very chaotic, you know, based on their alignment, you can go with that. You just have to decide what are the key impulses and feelings and don't overthink it. Like a lot of people just end up sitting and thinking and they get what's called analysis paralysis. Just stop. If you're like, my character is impulsive and if he sees something he thinks will be fun, he does it. Or my character is super anxious and nervous. If he's in a situation and he's looking at a forest and it's like, oh, there's a forest, but then you hear a faint knocking over there. Like, he's anxious. He's not going to go near it. He's going to stay over here. Maybe he sits on this little brick wall and he's just going to watch, see if anybody comes out from the woods. Like, honestly, so often you don't have to think about it that hard. You just focus on the core pillars of what makes your character, and then you just roll with those. And I mean, when you do that, this is the other, as a DM, when you do that, it just shifts the burden from you to the DM. If the DM really wants you to go in there and see what that noise is in the spooky house, but your character is anxious and doesn't want to check on the house, okay, well, the burden is now on the DM to make it more interesting or to make it intriguing, or maybe to let you just not look. Because guess what? Some characters, some people won't go into the spooky house with the scary noises coming out of it. Not everybody's living in a B-grade horror movie. Like, if the DM is trying to railroad you into doing things your character wouldn't do, that's a DM problem. So just focus on the core problems or core fundamental aspects of your character, and then just rely on those impulses. Play that way. You really don't have to think about it too much. And if your DM gets frustrated you're not following along in a railroading, it's probably a DM issue that the DM can't think of a more interesting way to motivate you as a player. Stop studying Twitch. And DV King, good to see you. George, thank you for the 5. First time being able to chat, and I'm about to start KCD2. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're doing well too, my friend. Thank you for the 5. And you guys are right. One of us. One of us. Oh, it's so good. I just want to play it all day. What if Bethesda made KCD2? Jacob, when you clip this, don't post it for a handful of days. I don't want to step on Nick's steam with his video, but I do want to watch this because I think it will be funny. So just as a heads up, give it a little breathing room. The Daddiest Pickle. What a name, dude. That's fantastic. That's funny. Welcome, my friend. Glad to have you. Okay, you ready? News over. You guys know I love Bethesda. No, I was almost bad. You guys know I love Kingdom Come Deliverance too. And I love talking about Bethesda and laughing at Bethesda's consistent ability to just make an otherwise fantastic experience kind of less so. And so the one and only Nick Tech went and made a video. We all know where this is going. What if Bethesda made KCD 2? We all know exactly what's about to happen, but let's watch it anyways because it's going to be funny.
Get ready to pick up your broken teeth with broken fingers. Oh, I'd like to see that. Come on, then. You scum!
I'll kill you. It was him.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Load screen to wash. Like, how else would we get the blood off your skin? You have to wash. Oh, you got to repair your weapon. Load screen. Yep. Dude, what's funny with all this is I actually went back for a video we were doing. I went back and I found a review of Skyrim from 2011. And in that review, it was from like a big outlet. It was like GameSpot or IGN. They complained about the loading screens. They were like, the constant load screens to go in and out of buildings and for the different zones can get kind of frustrating and can break the immersion a good bit. Like, it was an actual thing they mentioned in the review from over a decade ago, and it's still a problem. But this is why, like, when you can make a video like this making fun of a developer for a very self-explanatory meme of the constant load screens, at that point you would think that that would be like number one priority. Okay, guys, we get it. Okay. It's like with KCD 1, where they saw all the constant complaints about the bugs and the jankiness. What do? They deal with it. They fix it. They don't go, that's part of it. That's part of the experience. They go, we're going to fix it. We're going to figure it out. And then they work their asses off to do it. My desire with bringing up all of these Bethesda things and still joking about it, memeing on it, is that eventually Bethesda learns from it and doesn't make the same mistake and improves. Will that ever happen? I think we all kind of have a feeling probably not. They've already said that they're making Elder Scrolls 6 in the same engine as Starfield, so it's going to be the Creation Engine 2. They're not even putting a 3 on it. It's going to be the same thing. Yeah, Wilfredo, desire equals wishful thinking. Yeah, it's why maybe this is just a fundamental difference between me and you guys and some other like fans of Bethesda stuff, because I feel like most of you guys in chat are on the same page as me. I don't think coddling a multi-million-dollar company that's owned by a multi-trillion-dollar corporation, I don't feel like coddling them actually helps them. I don't feel like talking to Todd and glazing him actually helps. You know? I just don't. I think if you're real and direct about it, you can actually find some success. Let me see, or at least make a change. Where is it? Is this the clip?
Was that this is a Bethesda game. And I didn't mean it derogatory, right? But we've talked about it, and you've seen me on this show talk about it. I love Starfield, right? And you said something I thought interesting when we were talking about Fallouts, where you're like, oh, well, you know, the show is this person's favorite entry, which is great. And I, blah, blah, blah. I said how much I like Starfield. The chat over here is then on fire of people who loved it or hated it or whatever in between, right? My question for you is the reception at launch of Starfield. How does that affect you and the team? Because what I thought was different about the lead up to Starfield was that you were all wearing your hearts on your sleeves and saying, this is the game we've always wanted to make. This is like something that means so much to us. And so when you get there and you get a game that is then polarizing to this level, what was the takeaway? What was the office like on launch day, review day, all those?
Honestly, I think that's a solid enough question. You know, of course, Greg is allowed to like the game. I'm not saying Greg has to come out and be like, oh, so I hate Starfield, Todd. What's the deal? We're not saying that. I think asking Todd directly, it's polarizing. There's some people who love it and some people that hate it. What do you think of that? I think that's an interesting question. I think the bread and butter is in the follow-up, which we'll see here in a second, but an interesting question. How does Todd respond to the question of the feedback, the people that were really frustrated with some of those design choices, with some of the stuff they did in Starfield and the direction that they took?
Well, there's a few things, and thanks for asking. The number one that we're always concerned with is how is the game holding up, right? What's our bug level? What's the crash rate? So first of all, we were over the moon with how kind of the actual data we were getting back and how the game was performing on a technical level. That one to us is always sort of most important on the dev side.
So the first thing they were looking for when reviews dropped and players got access to the game was whether or not the game was crashing and breaking. Given Bethesda's history, I can't say I'm too surprised that that was their first thing they were looking at and worried about. But to their credit, Starfield was probably the most polished Bethesda game at launch ever. It was. It still had lots of problems. It still was buggy and ran into its own problems. But it was the best among the not great day one launches that Bethesda's ever had. So I'll give them that.
Number two was the amount of players.
So again, just choosing not to respond to the question of feedback and the polarization of that feedback, or the polarized nature of it, moving from the game is polished to we had a lot of players.
Kind of set a record for how many players that we had in a game. Obviously, Game Pass is a part of that.
Of course.
You know, but to see the amount of people playing and like, okay, we've had more players at launch than we've ever had in our careers, and the game is holding up really well. It's a really joyous moment for us, particularly after how long the game took. On the review side.
Okay, cool. We've gone through it ran well or better than we were braced for. And there were a lot of players. Okay, now he's going to mention the reviews. Specifically, Greg's question was they were polarized. Some people loved it. Some people really didn't like it. What do you have to say about the polarization?
And we've been through this, so it's not sort of new to us. What's new is it's a new IP. So you know that we're going to be doing some things differently than we've done before. And obviously we had people who loved the game, both on the review side, and people who liked it less.
Oh man. I mean, I'm always going to point back to this clip because I find it hilarious. Because it's the most corpo speak ever. It's like he's not even allowed to just say there were some people that liked it and some people that didn't. He's not even able to say that. It has to be they liked it or they liked it less. But you still have to say they liked it. It makes me feel like Greg's face in this picture, in this freeze frame. That answer makes me feel like this. What are we doing? They didn't like it, Todd. It's not that they liked it less. They didn't like it. Okay? Just is what it is. It's all right. Like, if I don't like cottage cheese, you don't say, well, David loved the cottage cheese and Luke loved it less. No, I didn't love it. That's the problem. It was not that David gave it 100 and I gave it a 50. I was at 0. I was at -50. I actively disliked it. And it's just such a funny framing. Because again, part of this is corporate speak, but with these types of interviews, the goal is to get an insight into how Todd thinks and views these things. And when you take him at his word, instead of like trying to hand wave it away as corpo speak for the sake of marketing, you start to understand why nothing has changed, why they've spent decades with this engine that has been criticized by journalists and gamers all along for its various shortcomings. And you start to understand why there's been problems with efficiencies. There's been problems with certain directions being taken, why they've lost a lot of senior talent since the release of Starfield. It all starts to kind of make sense when you just take him at his word, which is that he doesn't seem particularly bothered by it. And he's reframing even negative feedback and critical feedback as people that just liked it less.
I think the majority of our reviews were in the 90s. Which, look, that's great. I don't want to ever be in a world.
So we're only going to talk about the good reviews. There's no acknowledgement of like the negative feedback and the critiques that people had.
Where that is not a great place to be in terms of kind of critical reception, particularly in a year where there's so many amazing games out.
Sure.
But obviously, look, we see the feedback. We see a lot of players saying, this is what I want out of a Bethesda game. Which is to explore a world in a certain way. And Starfield didn't give me that. I prefer the way it's done in Fallout or Elder Scrolls, and perfectly understandable, right? In terms of, hey, this is a different experience. And I do think, for us, particularly me going into a science fiction game, I want to be able to land on all the planets. I want the game to say yes to us, knowing that content is going to be different than you've seen from us in the past when you're exploring.
I mean, again, the point was that it wasn't different. It was worse. That's the point. There were things in Starfield that were worse. The repeated locations that you run into multiple times, that was worse than when all the locations were unique in previous games. And so I think that's the problem with this, is that you can tell that there was a point in development where they decided to embrace the fact that there were going to be constant load screens. And so even within the cities, they had constant load screens. Even within, individual locations, there's constant load screens. That for them, they just didn't. I think they became numb to it, frankly. I'm guessing that's what happened. They just stopped seeing it because they were developing the game. And so they just weren't aware of how jarring it would feel for players. And it was also like an element of, I think as a result of that, of just a complacency and a lack of push to deal with it. But I'll let him finish.
A landscape. And that's some of the trade-offs we'll make to do what we think makes, a science fiction game like this, that's kind of based in this kind of fiction and reality, to make it what it should be. And, each of the franchises should kind of be its own thing.
For sure.
And so obviously, look, there are areas that, the maps or some other things, gameplay options, that we're adding, other display modes on console that people have asked for. And we want to do all that stuff. Take some time, but we're excited to get stuff out there.
Well, like you said, we got.
Yeah, remember I said the follow-up is going to be crucial. I would hope to hear a follow-up doubling down on well, to be clear, Todd, there's been some critiques of things like the load screen problem, the fact that the places you land on the planets are quite small with repeated locations, where people feel like that is actively worse, not an alternative, but it's actively worse than what you've been able to provide in previous games. And it's even detrimental to the sense of exploration, because you can land on any planet wherever you want, except like in an ocean. But what you find there is rarely interesting and is often the same thing you've seen elsewhere. So how do you respond to those people who feel like Starfield is an active step backwards? That would be an interesting follow-up question. What's the follow-up question we get?
And more DLC or an update getting announced this week, you said, a couple days from now?
Shifting forward to promoting the update that brings, I think this one brought city maps because there weren't city maps when the game launched. I don't know what it is. In the games industry, there's not really, follow-ups are just not a thing that the press does. It's really weird. I don't know what it is, but it's also just media in general, I guess, but it doesn't feel like anybody really presses, you know? But I think it's because this interview was not about like pushing Todd or asking Todd those questions. It was about promoting the Fallout show, promoting the Starfield update. It was about, I think, did they touch on the Indiana Jones stuff? Todd on Baldur's Gate 3, most replayed, Fallout 76 promotions of that, technical leaps in the industry, new Obsidian and New Vegas. Like it was about promoting the show. So I think that's probably why. But I mean, this is what's always amazing to me is that Todd will go on an outlet like this, and 9 months later, you know, they're struggling to crack 97K on the interview. I think I did a total of 2, maybe 3 videos covering different chunks of this interview, little pieces of it. And cumulatively, those videos have like over 900,000 views. So if you're trying to get in front of an audience, you'd think that you'd push to get in front of the audience. But again, that's because that's not what they're looking for. Like, what they're looking for is the promotion and the promotional side of it, because they can go on kind of funny and they know that they'll get exposure through subsequent clips, reactions, and videos and stuff talking about it. But actually going and doing the interview, it's much safer to go on friendly territory. And like I said, I thought the question from Greg was good. I thought that was a good question to ask. But there was no follow-up, and it immediately shifts into just another promotion of something else they're doing. So, yeah, Maddie's interview has 500K. Exactly. Like, I had some notes on Maddie's interview. I thought that there were, by the last half of the interview, I felt like it was just kind of falling apart. But I thought it was still a good interview on the whole. And I thought it was really interesting that, you know, his video Pops Off does so well compared to some of the other ones that they've done. But we're going to push. I'm going to have, you know, especially going into the rest of this year, we're going to be pushing to try and do some bigger interviews with people like Phil Spencer, see if Todd wants to come on and play chess. Imagine if we did that. Imagine if I get Todd on for an interview, but I'm like, okay, we decide if I get to talk about Starfield with you, if I can beat you in a game of chess real quick. Who's laughing now?
Shout out to the chess club.
Wouldn't that be funny? It'd be awesome. It's kind of a miracle Kind of Funny is viable with those numbers. I think they have a massive Patreon. I think that's what it is. They have people that give them a lot of money through Patreon. But yeah, I mean, based on the numbers that they have, they shouldn't be able to employ a ton of people. They've got money coming from somewhere else. I don't know where. I don't work there or anything, but yeah, if I had their view numbers, I don't think I'd be able to do this for a job myself, much less have employees. So they got something figured out. Make sure to have the candle. Oh, dude, I'd be like a little bit more covert with it. I'd like put the candle off in the background so you guys could see it and be like, oh, there it is. And I would be wondering if Todd had seen anything or would know about it. So I wouldn't call it out. I just leave it there. Yeah. Yeah. If you get Todd again, Luke, pull up a save file with broken quest line. Imagine if I got that interview. I get the interview with Todd, and I'm like, so now that I have you, then I pull up Starfield, share my screen. I can't figure out how to reload this gun. It won't reload. Is this, do I need like a DLC or something for it to work, or am I doing something wrong? Oh, maybe, do I need a paid mod? Do I need that, Todd? Do I need armor for my horse, Todd? That would be funny. We could troll the crap out of him. We would try to be, of course, like we would do the interview and all of that, but there would be plenty of opportunities for funny little jokes for sure. Do you like my jacket, Todd? Yeah. I got you some Fallout rum. Do you want to have a shot with me? Oh my God. Yeah. Let me, hold on. I have to get my interview questions out of my canvas bag. Oh, I never got it. I forgot. Oh, bummer. Dude, we could have so much fun with it. Oh, now I really hope that happens. He'd just be like, yeah, this isn't working. We're gonna be good. Yeah, we're gonna leave. Oh man, I don't know if I'd be able to keep a straight face during that. Man. Yeah, and then I'm like, hold on, let me share my screen real quick. I just want to ask you a question. Let's see, where did I put the thing? Okay, oh, I can't find it. Anyway, so what I was gonna ask you, we can have fun with it. We do a little bit of trolling, Anyway, I love this wallpaper so much. Oh man. Anyway, the point of all of this is just that I will keep an eye on it. I am excited to see what Bethesda's doing next, but the fact that we can still, good luck cutting this into a clip, by the way, Jacob, because this is like 30 minutes of me rambling. But I think it'll be entertaining nonetheless. But I think with all this, I just hope eventually Bethesda I keep looking at Todd. Eventually Bethesda starts to listen to the memes, because memes are powerful things. When the meme is that Todd is short, I don't even know if Todd is short, but you see this meme on screen and you're like, Todd, you know, he looks short. Load screens might even be way faster, or maybe they do this cool transitionary thing so it doesn't even feel like a load screen in Elder Scrolls 6. Might not even be a problem, but you know what everybody is going to be looking for the second they drop Elder Scrolls 6 gameplay? All the load screens. Because memes are like representations of feelings within the zeitgeist. You know, they rise above mere jokes. They describe phenomena. And they describe like exaggerated stereotypes of those topics. And so even though the meme is like kind of stupid, is a game bad because it has load screens? No, of course not. But if you refuse to like shake the meme and the meme takes over, you're not gonna be able to do much of anything. I mean, you're gonna be screwed, because all anybody's gonna talk about is the meme. And it will be so funny. So there you go. Let me catch up on these super chats real quick. In the order I got them. Ricadus, thank you for the 5. I can't believe Baldur's Gate 3 makes you F a bear. Me, who never talked to Halsin because Mommy Minthar asked me to kill him. Damn, that's crazy. Yeah, it's almost like you control the buttons you press. Milan Yannick, thank you for the 2. Vavra compared Cry and UE. It's on Reddit. Oh, really? Oh, that would be interesting. I want to pull up in another tab. Maybe we look at that next stream. That could be cool. Yeah, there's like a whole video about it. Interesting. Okay, yeah, we could totally look at that. Thank you for the recommendation. Cool Pandas, thank you for the 10. Very generous. My friend's memorial was yesterday, a couple days before she died. She was telling me about how excited she was for AC Shadows. I'm not expecting it to be great, but now I want to play it for her. Props, my friend. I think you should. That sounds very sweet, like a cool connection. My condolences, of course, for you and your friend. That's always tragic to hear, but at the very least, with a game coming up that you both had this connection over, that could offer you sort of a I don't know what the word would be, a bit of camaraderie, a bit of connection. So that sounds wonderful. Definitely, I think that would be a cool way to kind of carry on the memory and share that experience. Oh, and Seth, thank you. Seth sent another follow-up super chat reminding me to double check the super chats to make sure I read that one from Cool Pandas. So thank you guys for that. It's wonderful. How old am I? I am 27. 27. I'm just a little guy. Yeah. I have an older audience, so people often think I'm older. I don't know why. I look at least 38. Okay, calm down. Come on. I'm sensitive. You look at least 53. Okay, this isn't fun anymore. You have a child though, that's why. Yeah, dude, I'm getting the whole like family kid arc out of the way early. So then I could be like the fun dad in his 40s who has like the boat and the cool house and the cool sports car. That's what I'm doing now. I just don't want to be like 60 and then driving my kids to high school. Like I want to be able to have fun when I'm 40, 50, 60, you know? You said kids. Yeah, I got 2 kids. 2 little guys. The oldest 27-year-old I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that responsibility breeds character. And so I believe that if you take on responsibilities, stresses, anxieties in life, you take on difficult tasks, it forces you to rise to the occasion. And when you do that, it makes you a better person. So I firmly believe that if there's something in life that scares you or is intimidating or that you don't want to do because it sounds like it's too much or I'm not old enough, I'm not smart enough to do that, do it. Figure it out. You'll be a better person. Boom. Do that. I encourage you. If there's something that scares you, something that's stressful, take it on. Take it on. What if everything in life scares you? Then you've got a lot of work to do, my friend. Yeah. What does fun look like when you're 40? It hopefully looks like having millions of dollars to do whatever you want. That's the goal. Because I'm being boring in my 20s and 30s, late 20s and 30s, investing and stuff, and then raising kids and working so that when I'm 40, I don't have to work and I just get to do whatever I want. But I'll have a lot of money from all the investments. That's the goal. Yeah. Do I have a favorite collector's edition of a game? Of course, I've got like some of my favorites on display. In terms of just the sculpt and the statue, the Order 1886 has one of the coolest ones. This one's just cool because it hangs off. It's the big werewolf thing coming in to attack Sir Galahad. And so this is probably my favorite statue, even if the game isn't my favorite. It's just beautiful. So probably that one. That's probably my favorite sculpt. Yeah. That's what I would recommend. And you can find them for pretty cheap too. So how old was I when I got married? 23? 23. Ba-ba-ba. Let's see. Happiness at 34 is going to bed at 8:30. Yeah. Yeah, JD, I recommend you go out and do stuff. Go out, even if you're just bored, go out to like a community college and take a class on something you're interested in. I took like audio production, music production classes at Front Range Community College in Fort Collins, Colorado. It was great. I met my wife at a community college. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Well, here's the deal, guys. I've got to go. I think we're going to call it here. Like I said, I was like, I don't think we'll do too long of a stream. We went for 3 hours still. We're doing good. So I think we'll call it there. And I'll be back on Friday. We should have a lot to talk about because the Take-Two investor call is going to happen tomorrow. And they're probably going to tell us a lot about GTA 6, Mafia, all of that stuff. So we should have plenty to discuss. So it's going to be good. He's just a little guy. Yeah. But until then, my friends, thank you, everybody. Anchovy, thank you for the 100 bits. Do you think Marathon is shown at next week's PlayStation event, if it happens? I just rewatched the trailer, and it's one of the closest aesthetics I've ever seen. I hope the game can live up to that aesthetic. I mean, they got to show it soon, because it's supposed to come out this year, and they're supposed to be doing more play tests and betas and stuff. So it's got to come soon. I mean, if they don't show it in the next month or two, I would guess they save it till like May, June for their summer showcase that they're going to do. But they've got to show it soon, for sure. Like official gameplay reveal. But it's a high stakes because that one game is going to try to justify the $3.7 billion purchase of that company. So they've got to nail it. But yeah. Anyway, until next time, my friends, I love you all desperately. Stay safe. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.